Our story begins on a beautiful moonlit night filled with stars, and we are told that long ago, beyond the misty forests and the whispering hills, there lived those who held the secrets of time, and people called them druids. We are shown many people, along with a druid and his pet. He used to help others, carrying a staff in his hand and a bag made of bones. Druids possessed many magical powers. They protected harmony and order, carving runes under the starlight of the days. We are shown his soul form. They were renowned philosophers. He was a teacher who guided countless people onto the right path, and we are shown his soul form. And now, having finished a long journey of life, the noble soul of a druid entered the cycle of rebirth. After wandering the cosmos for ages, he was searching for his vessel. Then we see that he has finally found a body. And he says, "Found it, a vessel worthy of my soul. Fragile as a giant glass ball and warped with pain." And we see a boy who is overweight. And the druid says he is fat but otherwise completely perfect. And so the druid, Theophilo, faced with an endless wait or a new life, at this crossroads gladly chose the vessel of Kang Sehyun. Then we hear a voice calling out, "Hyung." Someone keeps calling for their older brother. And we see a man who says, "Brother, are you okay? Are you awake?" We are shown our main character's brother, who is crying heavily over what he believes is his brother's death. He doesn't know that his brother has already died, and the person in front of him now contains the soul of a druid. We see Hyung. All that remained was to live a new life and fulfill his calling as a druid. But waking up in a place filled with sharp, pungent smells, Theophilo thought. Our main character opens his eyes, and then he says, "Something is wrong with this body." Then he thinks, "Terribly wrong." His brother rubs his head and says, "Hyung, you're awake." He says it was a language and script he had never heard before, yet the meaning came together naturally in his mind. Was I too hasty to think the memories of the vessel would remain upon reincarnation? Then his brother says, "Hyung, do you recognize me?" Hyung looks at him and thinks, but his doubts lasted only a moment. Then something hits him, and slowly Hyung's memories begin flowing into his mind. He remembers everything and learns all about his life. He says, "The moment I locked eyes with my younger brother, Siwoo." Memories flooded in, piecing themselves together. His brother Siwoo keeps calling his name over and over again. He says who I was, then his memories begin returning in flashbacks. He had been an office worker whom nobody liked. Everyone made fun of him, nobody talked to him, and due to overwork he had died. He says, "What happened that turned me into a human? And what pain was I suffering from?" He remembers everything. After inheriting all those memories, it was a long time later that I finally woke up. He says, "How is this even possible?" Sihyun's life naturally came to my mind, and even his past emotions came flooding back. He grabs his head and says, "Thanks to inheriting his memories, I don't have to worry about adapting to the modern world, but..." He says this won't be easy. Anyway, Hyung notices a photo of himself and his brother lying nearby. He says he needs to lose weight. A few days later, we see a scene where he is going up and down the stairs to lose weight. He is completely exhausted. He says this is definitely unexpected. A weight of 170 kilograms and a 50-inch waist. The reason Kang Sihyun died so young at 28 was a myocardial infarction and complications from hyperlipidemia. His brother affectionately calls him Hyung. Don't get confused by the name. His name is Kang. Let's continue. We see him visiting a doctor, and the doctor says, "It's a miracle you're even alive right now. Promise me you'll focus on recovering your health." Kang becomes confused. In the end, exercise is absolutely non-negotiable. Kang is sitting on a bench and says to himself that once he recovers, he will live properly. He says, "Back when I was a druid, starving for a week was nothing. I'm used to this kind of hardship." He says the problem is. As he says that, he tries using his druid powers, and they actually work. Seeing this makes him happy. He is exhausted and says, "To think the nature force I gathered all day completely scattered just to bloom a single flower. At this rate, forget my calling as a druid. I have to worry about my own survival." Nature force was the source of the mysterious power wielded by druids, and the driving force keeping this vessel, named Kang, alive. Kang says, "I'm lacking nature force." But with the nature force scattering as soon as it gathers, This was a huge problem for him because he was a druid. He says, I need to step up the intensity. Then someone approaches him. It is none other than his brother, who calls out to him from a distance. Hyung, your heart is weak, what are you doing? He gives a confused reaction. And Kang says, Siwoo. He says, stop saying Siwoo, Siwoo. Are you sure you should be working out like that? Siwoo sits down beside him. And Kang says, I'm taking it easy, so I'm fine. His brother says that his heart is very weak and that he should be careful. Siwoo says the child whose life you saved is 6 years old. Hearing that, Kang says, yeah. Then he remembers from his final memories that he had thrown his body in front of a kickboard, flying down the hill like a rocket. It was already speeding down in a critical situation. The moment he saved the child. After rescuing the child, he felt happy that he had finally saved him. And along with the small body falling into his arms, emotions of worry, joy, and relief rushed in with fragments of memory. Even though he collapsed from a myocardial infarction right after saving the child. Kang says he was cute. His brother says that he did the right thing, but then becomes sad. He says, you should think about me too. I'm your brother. What will happen to me after you're gone? Kang says, I understand. A warm feeling fills Kang's chest, and he says it has been a long time since he felt this way. All of these emotions belonged to Kang, but now they belong to the druid as well. His brother tells him to get better first. Kang says, I quit my job. His brother says, why? Kang says the Team 1 leader stole the project I spent 3 months on. The team leader, that Nepo baby. Siwoo asks, and says, crazy bastard, no wonder you were so stressed. Kang agrees, and hearing that, Siwoo says, have you gone crazy? Why are you reacting like that? Kang says there is nothing like that. He thinks to himself that perhaps these are Kang's memories making him feel bad. His brother asks what he plans to do now. He says he should take a break and just rest. He says, well, about that. He says, I'm going to sell everything here, even the apartment. After that, I'm moving to the outskirts of Gyeonggi-do. Siwoo says, are you going there to become a farmer? Kang says, not just for farming, I'm going there to take care of my health. Siwoo starts thinking. His brother says, you've always liked growing plants, so you can tend a small garden for exercise. Kang says, yeah, that's the plan. And from the perspective of the druid Theophilo, I needed a forest right away, if only for this unstable vessel. A druid without nature force, just the thought of it sends shivers down my spine. His brother says, you used to make videos about plants, why don't you start making them again? Kang says, yeah, I will. Siwoo says, people keep commenting and asking where you've disappeared to. Kang says, doing too many things at once is just a waste of energy. His brother looks at him angrily. His brother says, honestly, I'm just worried about what you'll be doing all by yourself in the countryside. Can't you just upload some simple videos for me? Kang says well, and starts thinking about what he should do. He is frightened because he feels like he might lose his brother. Kang thinks, it's hard to say no when he looks at me like that. To break a druid's stubbornness. Quite impressive. Kang says, fine, I'll do it. He says, but I won't show my face, I'll only show what I'm doing. His brother says, that's more than enough, thanks, Hyung. Then we see a girl. She says, excuse me. After seeing her, Kang says, Hyung. Kang held his breath. It was an involuntary reaction from his body. He must have really loved her. His brother asks, who is she? Kang says, what brings you here? Regardless of the fact that she was the woman Kang once loved. His druid powers warned him. Then she says, I didn't know you went through surgery. In Kang's memories, she was not a good person. Even knowing the danger, Kongai Hyen's heart keeps beating fast in a completely uncontrolled way. She was a coworker who joined the company at the same time as him, becoming the young man's great unrequited love. The problem is that the young lady took advantage of his feelings in a malicious way to dump all her work on him. She went as far as blaming him for her own mistakes at the company while he accepted everything silently out of pure passion. Realizing the tension in the air, Siwoo calls his older brother to try to understand what is happening there. Imagining that she is an important visitor, the purple-haired young man decides to say goodbye to leave them alone. Yang apologizes for the interruption, but Siwoo reassures her that he was already leaving and that it is no problem at all. The younger brother walks away from the spot at a quick pace, leaving the two alone to talk in private. Kang Se-hyun lets out a long sigh to try to calm his heart and prepare himself for what is to come. Young slowly approaches with a serious expression and starts the conversation somewhat hesitantly, showing an unusual coldness. Kang Hyun stares at the woman directly and asks in a straightforward manner what she wants. The young lady is completely left without a reaction and stammers in shock upon noticing the young man's icy tone of voice and distant gaze. The druid notices immediately how uncomfortable she became with this less than warm reception on his part. She always used a sweet and gentle tone of voice to manipulate him, but now she needs to reveal the real reason for her visit. She begins to talk about the project he coordinated without knowing that the man in love from before is now the druid Theopilo. Keeping his composure, the young man replies in a simple and direct way that he does not remember absolutely anything. He justifies it by saying that he underwent complex surgery with general anesthesia, which greatly affected his recent memory. He adds by saying that this does not matter anymore since he resigned, and the project is no longer his responsibility. Faced with this cold response, Young begins to sweat from nervousness as she realizes that her situation at the company has become terrible. Desperate, she begs for his help and confesses that she will be in massive trouble if he does not cooperate. Faced with her desperation, Kang Se-hyun remains silent while he feels sweat drip down his face from nervousness. The druid sees the woman's true selfish nature and promises himself that he will not fall for this cheap drama. He lets out a sigh and thinks that the body's former owner really did not have good taste in women. He says he knows how she used him to work overtime and take the blame for her mistakes at work. Kang Se-hyun questions if it is not very rude of her to go to the hospital to ask for help from a former employee. He mocks her by saying that she's very capable, leaving the young lady stammering and trying to justify herself awkwardly. The young man reinforces in a cold way that he is no longer responsible for anything regarding that project and leaves her totally speechless. Young turns red with anger upon realizing that she will not be able to manipulate the young man like she used to do before. Hiding her fury behind a dark aura, she tries to claim that she was only thinking about his well-being. Seeing her forced smile, the druid feels that the anger he was accumulating finally begins to disappear. He knows that these intense feelings belong to the body's former owner and that this relationship needs to end right there. The druid takes control of the situation for good, remembering that now he is the one who dictates the rules of Kang Se-hyun's life. He stands up from the hospital bench and warns in a dry way that there is nothing left to be discussed between the two of them. Without looking back, Kang Se-hyun just asks with a slight smile for her to send any other pending matters via text. Young is left behind trembling with hatred as she sees that she has completely lost control over the young man who used to obey her before. She begins to yell in the middle of the courtyard, pretending to be worried about his recovery just to keep up appearances. Ignoring the woman's desperate shouts, Kang Se-hyun knows very well that his message was delivered with absolute clarity. He promises to ignore any future call from work, focused on not letting that routine make him sick again. Suddenly, a little bird lands in a friendly way very close to Kang Se-hyun in the hospital's outdoor area. With the little bird on his shoulder, the young man notices that the days at the hospital begin to pass in a much lighter and more pleasant way. Sometime later, he receives a plate full of red and extremely fresh strawberries to eat in his room. Kang Se-hyun is marveled by the beauty of those shiny fruits while reflecting on the past few weeks, thanks to his effort in daily workouts. The people who used to look at him with disdain were now beginning to cheer for him. The gossip that he is the brother of a famous idol spread, making everyone around want to be kinder. A nurse explains affectionately that she brought the strawberries to encourage him in his diet due to music, his great performance. The young man expresses his gratitude for the encouragement and puts one of the juicy strawberries in his mouth to taste that fresh delight. The moment he takes the first bite, the sweet juice of the fruit spreads in a wonderful way through his mouth. Kang Hyun's eyes shine intensely with the explosion of flavor from that truly spectacular strawberry. He savors the sweetness and perfect texture of the fruit, feeling as if he were tasting the purest wild honey. The surrounding patients find amusement in his enthusiasm, commenting that it looks like it is the first time he has eaten a strawberry. With a friendly smile, the druid agrees, remembering that earthly food is 1,000 times better than in his past. For him, savoring that fantastic fruit brings the incredible feeling of walking through the most beautiful botanical garden. In his mind, he sees himself running happily through green fields filled with fruit trees and rich fertile soil. Suddenly, Kang Hyun widens his eyes as he feels something totally unexpected begin to happen in his body. The woman in the room gets worried about his reaction and asks if there is something wrong with the fruit he ate. The young man reassures the patients with a calm smile, but notices a very strong magical energy flowing through him. While the ladies continue talking in a cheerful way, the druid concentrates on the magical sensation in his chest. He realizes with surprise that the natural energy contained in the fresh strawberry is being totally absorbed by his spirit. Upon discovering that he can regain his strength just by eating natural foods, the druid becomes anxious to go to the countryside. Time flies by, and finally the big day arrives for Kangai Hyen to be discharged to leave the hospital for good. An elderly lady praises his strength, joking that she has never seen anyone so stubborn and focused in her entire life. Kangai Hyen's effort yielded incredible fruits as he managed to lose 20 kg in just 3 weeks. He agrees cheerfully with the grandma's recommendations while feeling that his body is much lighter to move. Showing a lot of gratitude, the young man affectionately holds the elderly woman's hand and thanks her for her friendship and concern. He wishes that the lady recovers quickly and focuses all his attention on her health in a silent way. The druid secretly transfers a bit of his natural energy into the elderly woman's body to help her in her recovery. The old woman is touched by his kindness and says that seeing the young man smile always puts her in a great state of mind. She suddenly remembers that the young man sold his old apartment and asks where he intends to go from now on. Kangai Hyen gives a welcoming smile and prepares to reveal his dream destination far away from all the urban rush. He tells with enthusiasm that he is leaving for the countryside to enjoy nature and continue his recovery. The young man says he is looking for a very calm place where he does not need to worry about big city obligations. He reveals that the location is called Mount Bako, a peaceful village surrounded by beautiful mountains and lots of nature. As soon as he arrives at the destination with his heavy suitcases, Kangai Hyen collapses from tiredness on the lawn in front of the gate. He becomes winded and totally sweaty due to the great physical effort of carrying all that luggage to the new house. Looking around with more attention, he finally manages to contemplate the traditional Korean house where he is going to live. The young man lets out a sigh of relief for having sent the moving truck in advance to make the process easier. He takes his first steps through the yard of the new property, stepping on the tall grass that grew freely there. Following the advice of a great friend of Sai Wu, he decided to buy that old and charming traditional wooden house. The characteristic smell of wet earth and the aged wood of the place bring a very cozy feeling to him. He walks through the land and marvels upon noticing that the mountain is located literally right next to his new property. With a very satisfied smile on his face, the young man closes his eyes and enjoys the fresh breeze of that beautiful place. Kangai Hyen feels that the vital energy of the forest is abundant and is sure that he made the right choice by moving. However, upon opening his eyes and looking around, he realizes that he will have a lot of hard work to clean the messy yard. He laments upon noticing that the tall weeds have taken over everything and that there is no truly useful plant in that garden. The ecosystem there is new to the druid, and not even the old memories of Kangai Hyen help to identify the species. Remembering an old saying of his people, he gives an ironic smile about not worrying about imaginary problems. The druid knows that as long as he has his active natural energy, all the plants and animals of the place will be by his side. Excited to start the housework, he remembers that druids are the ultimate survival experts. While exploring the land, Kangai Hyen is quite surprised to find an old stone well in the middle of the overgrown grass. The scene cuts suddenly to a bicycle wheel that breaks abruptly on the busy street of a local market. Decided to leave the cleaning of the weeds for later, Kangai Hyen goes to the town fair to buy some basic items. He arrives at the traditional market, which is full of colors, delicious aromas, and market vendors announcing their sales. The young man looks around marveled and comments to himself about how lively and full of life that community market is. He walks pushing his bicycle with a metal basket in front, which will serve to carry his purchases of the day. The young man notices that that big local fair happens every 5 days and brings a contagious explosion of colors and smells. Suddenly, he senses an irresistible and very familiar aroma in the air, making him stop immediately with wide eyes. He follows the delicious smell and comes across a street food stall selling various traditional and juicy foods. The fried and golden snacks look extremely crispy and hot, shining in a very tempting way before him. The variety of kimbap rolls in mouth, watering delicious side dishes totally catches the young man's attention. Kangai Hyen begins to drool upon recognizing those street snacks through the nostalgic memories he inherited from the former owner. The friendly owner of the stall notices the young man's hungry look and asks in a playful way if he wants to try one. The young man gets startled by the offer and runs away from there, focused on keeping firm his promise to lose weight and regain his health. A little later, already recovered from the temptation, Kang Sai-hyun walks peacefully along the commercial street of the small town. He arrives at a gardening store and comes across the elderly owner who looks quite surprised to see the new customer, Kang Sai. Hyun enters with a friendly smile and asks if that is really the establishment that sells plant saplings. The friendly elderly gentleman laughs and says that the young man's eyes remind him of his pet puppy, asking what he is looking for. With a determined look, the young druid points to the beginning of a large row of boxes with vegetable saplings. He surprises the owner by saying that he is going to take absolutely all the tomato saplings that are on that shelf. He explains that he loves tomatoes and asks to also take salad leaf saplings and a large variety of mixed seeds. The young man takes the opportunity to ask if the old man has grape saplings, and the owner says he has some 5-year-old vines. The old man stays silent for an instant with a suspicious and quite thoughtful look about the large amount of purchases. He alerts the young man that planting tomato and grape seeds now would be a waste because they are way out of season. The old man explains with sincerity that the seeds might not even sprout due to the current weather and that he would feel guilty. Kang Sai-hyun listens to the thoughtful advice with a mischievous smile, feeling a huge excitement take over his chest. He thanks the seller for his concern, but thinks to himself that this will be no problem at all for a legendary Drew. The old man gets confused by the young man's confidence and warns in a grumpy way that he must not complain if the plantation goes wrong. He delivers the plastic bag containing the selected seeds directly into the hands of his persistent customer. Holding a giant stack of sapling boxes, the young man displays a huge, cheerful smile that impresses the old man a lot. The owner says goodbye, finding amusement in the young man's insatiable appetite for buying more and more plants and seeds. The people on the street stare at Kang Sai-hyun, totally astonished upon seeing him carry a true forest on his back. While Kang Sai-hyun says goodbye cheerfully to the employee and starts to leave with a backpack packed with saplings, the gardening store owner notices it and shouts desperately to call his attention. The old man asks if he really plans to carry all that absurd weight alone, making Kang Sai-hyun stops suddenly with an embarrassed smile upon realizing that he might have exaggerated the quantity. In the end, the friendly merchant decides to give him a ride in his pickup truck to help the young man carry everything safely to his new country house. And so, the little truck drives away after leaving all the purchases in Kang Hyun's yard, who stands there watching the dust settle in the middle of the road. The seller even joked, asking how he planned to stuff all of that onto a simple bicycle, making the young man agree that he really had not thought very well about this practical part of the move. Being a druid, Kang Sai-hyun feels quite ashamed for having forgotten such a basic detail about logistics, since ignorance is the worst thing for someone of his people, but instead of regretting it, he decides that the best thing to do now is to focus on work and start organizing things around the yard. His plan is to store the newly purchased saplings in a safe corner to later continue the tiring task of pulling out the tall weeds that took over the entire land. Suddenly, a rough voice appears right behind Kang Sai-hyun asking if there is anyone there, which makes the young man jump in shock from the surprise. Upon turning around, he comes across a gentleman of quite an intimidating appearance, wearing a hunting vest and carrying a huge shotgun resting on his shoulder. The old hunter stares at him from head to toe and says with a serious voice that he has never seen the young man around these parts before, leaving Kang Sai-hyun totally paralyzed with fear. The old man adjusts his cap in a dark way and asks if he is the new resident there, seeming to distrust even his own shadow. But all that scary tension vanishes in an instant when the old man simply leans his shotgun in the corner of the patio to relax a little. In the next moment, the two are already squatting on the grass, talking cheerfully while the old man helps the young man pull out the weeds with a small hoe. The old hunter suddenly makes a pouting face upon noticing the young man's lack of skill in gardening and decides to scold him. But Kang Hyun just opens a sweet and cute smile which completely disarms the old man's scowl and makes him clear his throat awkwardly. The old man begins to give various pieces of advice, saying that he needs to fix the fence and the gate before the harsh winter arrives. While the young man thanks him, saying that he is learning a lot from the tips. That scary gentleman is actually Grandpa Yong, the closest neighbor who lives just below the mountain and who came only to take a look at the big guy who just moved to the region. Even keeping a little bit of suspicion, Grandpa Yong teaches in detail how to handle the scythe correctly, and since a good druid never refuses a teacher, Kang Sai-hyun pays attention to every word, showing much admiration. The old man watches the young man with attention for an instant and lets out a reflective murmur, seeming to change his mind about the rookie neighbor. He confesses that he thought the young man would be someone scary because of his physical size, but realized that he is just a gentle giant and very polite, who listens to the elders with all the patience in the world. Upon learning that it is Kang Sai, Hyen's first time living in the countryside. The old man gets a little embarrassed and says that he will have to come visit him frequently to ensure that he does well. 1 hour passes and the cleaning work finally yields a gigantic pile of pulled weeds accumulated in the middle of the yard. With the end of the service, Grandpa Jung stretches, complaining about back pain, while Kangai Hyen also feels the weight of tiredness and lets out a groan of exhaustion. Suddenly, the old man begins to feel his own chest with a very puzzled expression, making Kang sigh. Hyen asks worriedly what is happening. He notices with surprise that he did not cough, even once upon standing up, which was a daily habit due to having smoked for many years. Leaving the young man relieved but curious about it, the old man comments that it is something really strange without suspecting that the big culprit behind this sudden improvement is the natural energy that the druid himself secretly shared with him. However, Grandpa Jung lets out a desperate scream of absolute panic out of nowhere, leaving poor Kang Sai-Heian startled without understanding what the problem is this time. He shouts, saying that he completely forgot to feed his pet ox and that he needs to run back home. While the young man tries to calm him down in the middle of that confusion, the old man goes running hurriedly through the gate while shouting for the young man not to forget the teachings he received today. And Kang Sai-Hun just says goodbye, wishing for him to go carefully. Grandpa Jung still stops for a second to yell a last warning, alerting that wild boars and deer roam free, snorts through the region and threatening to turn the animals into wind chimes if he catches them destroying the plantations. Kai Hyen stands there with a blank face, finding it very funny that someone would tell a druid of all people to be careful with forest animals. Later, the young man lies down comfortably on the wooden porch next to a sleeping kitten while watching a health tips video on his phone. The doctor in the video explains in detail that to lose weight healthily, it is necessary to divide the plate between vegetables, lean proteins like chicken breast, and healthy carbohydrates. The specialist reinforces that just exercising does no good if the diet does not change along with it, which makes the young druid agree that that explanation makes total sense since he grew up learning from wise men of his old clan from a very young age. Kangai Hyen knows from his own experience that there is always something valuable to learn from anyone. For him, social media and internet videos have become fantastic learning tools, especially the channels maintained by qualified professionals who sign with their own names. He's very impressed with the level of knowledge of modern human medicine and praises the dedication accumulated by generations of health professionals. He sits up quickly on the porch to follow the next lesson about stretches that help improve digestion in a simple and quick way. Suddenly, a sharp cry of despair echoes coming from somewhere in the yard, completely interrupting the tranquility of that afternoon of rest. Upon hearing the sound of a new agonized cry, the young man notices immediately that it is a desperate plea for help and stands up in a jump while the kitten flees startled. He grabs an old broom on the way and runs as fast as he can in the direction of the noise to try to discover what is happening around there. He stops near the damaged wall and comes across the silhouette of a mysterious little creature with pointed ears that seems to be cornered there. But upon looking closer to see who it is, the young druid widens his eyes and is totally shocked by what he has just discovered. The startled creature actually is a baby deer with huge eyes shining with tears, which is trembling with fear in the middle of the fallen branches. Kang Sai-Hyen kneels slowly on the ground and extends his hand with affection, trying to calm the small animal that keeps whimpering and trembling with terror. With a very soft voice, he comforts the little animal, saying that there is no reason to fear and promises that he will help it get out of there safely. He asks affectionately for the fawn to stay very still and gently touches the little animal's chin, which immediately begins to calm down with the petting. At that moment, a bright green light surrounds the two while Kang Sai-Hyen uses his natural energy to make a magical resonance and connect deeply with the deer's mind. Feeling the softness of the fur and the flood of emotions of the small animal flowing into his own mind, the druid suddenly notices the true danger and asks, startled, if the fawn's mother is the one whose life is at risk. The young man receives a vision of the small deer's mother caught in a painful iron trap in the middle of the dark forest. The poor animal cries in pain without managing to free itself from the metal claws that gravely injure its hind leg. Determined to save the little animal's mother, Kang Sai-Hyen runs with all his strength into the forest. Following the fawn runs desperately while the young man tries to keep up with the pace despite being completely exhausted and out of breath. Climbing the steep mountain with that heavy body proves to be an almost impossible task that makes his heart race. Despite the extreme exhaustion, the young druid knows that he cannot stop until he finds the injured animal and saves its life. He finally crosses a dense bush and spots the silhouette of the mother deer right there in front of him in the middle of the clearing. Kang Sai-Hyen finds the poor mother lying down on the ground while crying quietly. Because of the terrible injury on her leg, the young man approaches slowly so as not to scare the animals and tries to assess the severity of the situation with much concern. He despairs upon noticing that the cut is so deep that one can see the bone, needing to find medicinal herbs urgently. Suddenly, the druid's eyes begin to shine intensely with a vibrant green color upon sensing a mysterious energy. He looks around and notices that the entire forest is bathed in a magical aura that shines. Spectacular way, the young man realizes that the entire mountain overflows with an absurd amount of natural energy that he can use in the rescue. Knowing this, he is sure that some extremely powerful medicinal plant must be growing nearby. In a few seconds of searching, a gleam of hope appears on the young man's face. Upon finding exactly what he needed, he finds a special herb that shines in a radiant way in the middle of the dark foliage at the base of a large tree. The druid runs back with the medicinal leaves in his hands and asks for the deer to hang on tight just a little bit longer. He places the glowing herb over the wound and channels his own spiritual energy to enhance the healing. An intense green light surrounds the entire place, while the animal's wound begins to close in an almost magical way. The baby deer looks at the young man with a lot of curiosity upon realizing that its mother no longer feels any pain. Kangai Hyan decides that he needs to buy locking pliers at the fair to make the removal of traps easier in the future. He lets out a sigh of relief upon realizing that the sun is already almost setting and that the workday was long. The young man says goodbye to the animals, but notices that the duke keeps standing there staring at the young man with gratitude in their eyes under the beautiful light of the full moon that illuminates the dark mountains. He wonders where the den of those animals must be. The next morning, the sun's rays begin to appear from behind the mountains, bringing a new day of much peace in the countryside. However, the peace lasts very little because Kong Sai Hyan already wakes up making a tremendous physical effort that makes him tremble. He tries to maintain the squat position for another 30 seconds following the instructions of a workout video on the screen. The kitten that was sleeping peacefully on the floor gets a huge scare when the young man loses his balance and collapses on his back. Lying on the floor of the porch, he complains that his thighs are burning with pain and that exercising is much more difficult. The young man hopes that the mother deer manages to recover fully without major problems after all that confusion. He sits up slowly on the wooden porch and begins to reflect on the fantastic characteristics of that region. He notices that that mountain has an ecosystem so rich in magical energy that it would leave even his druid masters shocked. With a mischievous smile, he confesses to himself that he would love to master that entire mountain full of natural power. Suddenly, he remembers that he was recording a video for the internet and ends the recording of the morning stretches. Now that he has finished the workouts, the young man decides that the time has finally come to take care of his beloved garden in the yard. The young man appears wearing a traditional straw hat and holding a small gardening shovel with much determination. He opens the little bag containing the seeds purchased at the fair and begins to plan where he is going to plant each of the species. The seed list includes juicy red tomatoes, delicious grapes, very sweet carrots, and fresh lettuce for the diet. The young man lets out a confident smirk from the corner of his mouth upon realizing the huge potential he has in his druid hands. He comments cheerfully that it has been a long time since he displayed his special powers, viewing druidism as his job. Being a druid requires decades of intense studies and a sacred ritual of divine choice before starting to practice magic. While modern people think that druids are gnomes or fairies, he knows very well that they are actually specialists. The young man drops the metal tool on the yard floor in a decided way to start planting using only his hands. He thought that planting those small saplings would be the easiest task in the world, but reality was a bit different. Music, a violent twinge hits the young man's back suddenly, making him shout in pain upon realizing that his body cannot take much, spending hours hunkered. That heavy body to plant the seeds became a physical effort too painful and exhausting. He complains that his whole body hurts, remembering that he ran the entire mountain the day before to save the deer. Even feeling an unbearable pain through all his joints, the druid's look remains firm and full of determination. With a quick and focus-filled movement, he holds the small gardening tell with all the strength he has left. He kneels on the soft earth, promising that like a true druid, he will make each one of those sprouts grow. Healthy, excited with the work, the young man takes a deep breath music and decides to go back to planting his seeds. With much dedication in the yard, he begins to carefully align the small seeds in neat rows, burying each one in the soft earth. For the druid, guiding those seeds to the fertile soil is a sacred act capable of giving rise to a wonderful new life. Maintaining the spiritual focus of his past life, the young man savors every second of that pleasant sowing activity. He finally finishes the task of planting all the seeds and lets out a tired sigh before the empty pots. Kang Sihain collapses sitting on the porch floor, but displays a huge smile of pride for duty fulfilled. Upon observing the organized flower bed from afar, he feels that the result of all his effort turned out simply amazing. With a gentle wave of his hand, the young man prepares to use his Drew abilities to make the magic happen. Under the influence of his magical command, a brilliant green energy begins to accelerate the growth of the plants. In a matter of seconds, small and beautiful green sprouts begin to emerge from the earth in a spectacular way. He is completely marveled to see perfect rows of sprouts growing rapidly right before his eyes. The green sprouts emerge full of life and health, leaving the young man enchanted with the beauty of that vegetation being born. He notices that the plants grew much faster than expected thanks to the power that emanates from the neighboring mountain. The young man tells the kitten that now he only needs to water the plantation, and praises his furry companion for the cute company. Whistling a cheerful melody, Kangai Hyan walks satisfied, look for a watering can and finalize the day's work. However, Musicky stops suddenly and looks in the direction of the gate upon noticing the presence of a mysterious figure at the scene. The young man tries to squint his eyes to identify the man with crossed arms who observes him in silence near the entrance. Music to Kang So Hyan's relief, the mysterious figure reveals itself to be his friendly neighbor from next door. Music Grandpa Jung smiles and jokes, saying that he only enters the yard if he is invited, making the young man laugh at the joke. The old man then warns that he brought a very important visitor, whom he insists on introducing personally to the new resident. He makes a sign with his hand, calling an elegant lady with gray hair who is waiting patiently outside. With much pride, the old man introduces the elegant lady, revealing that she is the respected chief of that entire village. Kangai Hyan is completely in shock upon discovering the true and important identity of the illustrious visitor of the day. The respected chief of the village lets out a gentle and friendly laugh while staring at the young man with a welcoming look. She comments with a playful tone about him being the famous young man from the big city who decided to move to the countryside. Faced with the imposing presence of the community leader Kangai, Hyan gets a little embarrassed, and without knowing very well what to say, the woman continues staring at the young man with much attention and curiosity, making him break into a cold sweat from nervousness. With so much insistence, the young man wonders why she stares at him that way. While the old woman lets out a quite thoughtful murmur, she points laughing to a white little bird that landed on the young man's head, leaving Kangsai Hai unstartled with the surprise. Grandpa Jung comments, impressed that in all his life he had never seen a pet bird land so freely like that. The friendly community letter explains that she came only to check if the young man needs any help with the old house. She says that the place is old and confesses that she feared the young man from the big city would find the residents uncomfortable. Kangai Hyan lets out a relieved sigh upon realizing that that lady with an intimidating look is actually very warm. The young man expresses his gratitude for the concern and explains that he will need to do some simple repairs, but that there is nothing serious. However, Grandpa Jung looks out of the corner of his eye at the plants in the yard and notices something that catches his attention a lot. The old man asks, astonished when it was that the young managed to leave that construction site, so beautiful and full of life. He takes a few steps forward to analyze the plants up close with an expression of total incredulity on his face. The old man says that the seeds planted a very few days ago have already germinated, leaving the young man quite tense with the discovery. Stammering from nervousness, the young man tries to lie, saying that he already bought the large saplings to justify the rapid growth. The druid thinks fast and remembers that in a way that was not a total lie, which helps to calm the neighbors. The old woman praises the vegetable garden, and Kangsai replies ultimately that he did all that because he needs vegetables for his diet. She asks the reason for so much dedication, and the young man confesses in a timid way that he is trying to lose weight to take care of his health. Old woman says that big men convey a lot of confidence and praises the young man, stating that the girls are going to fall in love with him. Grandpa Jung changes the subject and asks if there is anything else that the young man needs to settle in better in the new house. He says that a boy from the city knows nothing about the countryside and offers to help him with any domestic problem. Upon hearing the neighbor's generous proposal, an excellent idea rises in Kang Sai-Hyan's mind to solve a problem. With a very sweet and embarrassed smile, the young druid asks if he could ask a small favor of the neighbor. A few hours after that friendly conversation, the little bird observes the busy movement from the top of a neighboring tree. A muscular worker appears carrying a ladder on his shoulders and announces, smiling, that the service has already been completed. Kang Sai-Hyan's eyes shine with so much emotion upon seeing the final result of that fantastic work in his garden. Everyone's jaw drops too. Contemplate the immense and grand new glass greenhouse built in the middle of the yard. The builder jokes, saying that he worked fast because the request came directly from the respected chief of the village. Grandpa Jung asks if that was exactly what the young man needed, and Kang Sai-Hyan replies that yes, all happy, The young man explains that he plans to cultivate delicate species that cannot be exposed directly to heavy rain. Impressed, the chief of the village asks for him to take a look at a sick orchid that she has in her house. The old man warns that they need to leave because it is past the time to feed his beloved pet ox. They say goodbye, wishing good luck on the plantation, and the young man thanks them immensely for the visit and for all the help. And that was how, with a stroke of pure luck and kindness from the neighbors, the young managed to take a big step forward. Kong celebrates cheerfully in the yard upon realizing that now he has his own and incredible plant greenhouse. He opens the glass door, holding his phone on the tripod to start recording one more video for the internet. Music with a huge smile, he films the interior of the greenhouse, saying that having that space feels like a dream come true. The young man shows his rarest plants and explains that the enclosed location helps to better control the climate for them. He decides to pause the recording on his phone for a few moments to be able to perform a small druid trick. The young man kneels on the black and damp earth of the greenhouse to concentrate his spiritual energy. Before the next step, he uses his green magic to make the vital energy circulate through the entire soil and enrich the earth in a natural way. The young man opens a satisfied smile upon noticing that the soft earth begins to move slightly, music indicating life in the soil. This special spell serves to increase the activity of earthworms and microbes that leave the soil rich and fertile. The young man takes a handful of earth in his hands and comments cheerfully that it had been a long time since he saw soil so alive. In his past life, the druid used to live surrounded by oak trees and plains with golden fields of wheat. In that ancient time, he was used to cultivating only common fruit trees like olive trees and grapes. Knowing that this new world has so many different types of mushrooms and rare herbs makes his heart race. He plans to some medicinal plants nearby and decides that he needs to buy technical books to study better. Suddenly, the loud sound of a notification ringing on his phone catches the young man's attention and makes him look at the ground. He picks up the device and is surprised to see that the screen is packed with new comments from subscribers of his channel. The young man is left mouth open upon reading messages from people saying that the vegetable garden videos inspired them to go on a diet. Reading those words full of affection brings a very welcoming feeling and warms the young man's heart with joy. He thought that nobody would watch those simple routine videos, but he realized how sensitive people are. The audience likes to follow real stories and laugh along with him throughout this entire journey of daily overcoming. The spectators feel inspired to change their own lives. After seeing the dedication and effort of the young druid, Kang Sai-hayan opens a sweet and sincere smile of happiness. Feeling extremely grateful for all the support received, he pets his fine little friend and thinks to himself that all that dedication really paid off in the end. Upon looking at the beautiful landscape around, the young man has the absolute certainty that moving to the countryside was the best choice. The next morning, the village wakes up with the cute sound of birds singing under the blue and clear sky of that beautiful day. Suddenly, the young man gives a cry of absolute surprise after stepping on the scale to check the results of his weight. He celebrates upon noticing that he lost 21 kg, reducing his initial weight to 129 kg. The druid notices that his natural energy is returning rapidly, and that his physical body is getting much stronger. The fat kitten of the house looks at the young man with a very funny face of someone who is not understanding anything of that mess. The young man walks cheerfully through the gate, saying that he is going to water the yard and then visit the house of his friendly neighbor. While walking back, he films his own face, warning that he will take the opportunity to answer some questions from the audience. He reads a curious question from a fan about height and laughs a lot at the fun comparison with a professional fighter. He tells with a sincere smile that he measures 1m and 83, but admits that his old weight was that of a fighter indeed. Another message asks if he uses pesticides after seeing a small green caterpillar eating the leaves of his vegetable garden in the videos. He explains with seriousness to the camera that he prefers not to use any chemical product as a matter of everyone's health. The young man reveals that he plans to chase away the insects in a natural way using the strong smell of mint pots in the plantation. He ends the questions thanking everyone for the immense affection and asks for them to send more doubts in the comments. Suddenly, a scary howl of pain echoes coming from somewhere along the way, making the young man stop suddenly in absolute shock. He looks confused to the sides, trying to identify the direction of the sound, finding that cry of agony very familiar. Upon looking to the end of the dirt road, the young man spots from afar two silhouettes running desperately in his direction. The druid widens his eyes upon recognizing the small deer running desperate with tears running down its cute little face. Right behind the startled animal, a mysterious man emerges, shouting in a threatening way for the little creature to stop running. Kang Si-hayan is completely in shock upon recognizing that the pursuer is his own elderly neighbor. Grandpa Jung comes running infuriated, wielding his shotgun and shouting furious for the deer to stop immediately. Widens his eyes upon seeing the old man position the weapon, ready to shoot against the startled little fawn. The hunter keeps yelling for the animal to come back while running without paying attention to anything else around. Kongai Hyan panics in absolute panic upon realizing the real-life danger that the small deer runs. The fawn runs desperately while the old hunter pursues it closely with a threatening and scary aura. Suddenly, the deafening noise of a shotgun blast echoes, cutting the sky of that morning in the countryside. The old man keeps shooting and shouting for the animal to stop, while the young man tries to reach them. Running behind, Kang Sai Hyan shouts desperate, asking for Grandpa Jung to stop shooting immediately before the worst happens. The young man realizes that the old man is too focused to listen to him and that the deer runs imminent life risk. Without any other option to avoid a tragedy, the young druid decides to use his magic in a quick way. He conjures magical vines that rise rapidly from the ground, with the objective of binding the feet of the pursuer. The magical plants wrap around the old man's ankles, making him lose his balance. In the middle of that rush, the old hunter shouts without understanding what happened while the young man arrives running and asks for him to be careful. The old man looks confused at his feet and wonders from where those strange vines emerged in the middle of the way. He remembers the animal and tries to break free to continue the hunt while the young man begs for him to calm down. Suddenly, an intelligent plan arises in Kang Sai Hin's mind to save the life of the startled small deer. The young man steps in front of the hunter and lies, saying that he himself is the one responsible for raising that fawn. The hunter doubts the statement a lot, but the young man insists, explaining that he saved the small animal from a trap. He kneels on the grass and asks with a very sweet voice for the small deer to approach him. In front of the neighbor, the baby deer recognizes the young man and lets out a cheerful little noise upon seeing the affectionate smile of its savior. The little animal runs and jumps straight into the young man's arms, leaving Grandpa Jung mouth open with such affection. The young man praises the little creature, but the old man grumbles that the little animal destroyed his entire sweet potato patch. The neighbor warns Mad that he will charge for the damage if this repeats and commands him to put a cop. Little creature, the hunter reveals that the bullets were blanks because he would never shoot for real at fawns, calming the young man. He gives an important piece of advice for the young man to build a secure enclosure at the house before the official hunting season. The old man remembers that the chief of the village prepared a traditional dish for him and asks for the young man to go fetch it later. He describes with a lot of appetite the delicious recipe of mung bean jelly with sesame oil and fresh vegetables. The hunter says goodbye and follows his way back home, leaving the young man finally alone with the fawn Kang Sai. Hyan lets out a giant sigh of relief and wipes the sweat from his forehead after going through that huge trouble. He gives a slight lecture to the deer, warning that they will be in trouble if it returns to invade the neighboring plantations. Suddenly, the young man remembers something very important that can help keep the small animal in safety. He asks for the fawn to stay very still while he rummages in his leather bag to grab a special object. The young man ties a beautiful pink scarf around the little animal's neck, leaving the baby deer extremely cute and stylish. He says that the scarf serves to warn everyone that the animal has an owner, preventing hunters from trying to hurt the fawn. He decides to take the little one back to the forest so that it can reunite in safety with its mother. The scene cuts to Grandpa Jung's traditional residence, where some birds sing cheerfully on the roof. Old man appears savoring a delicious piece of the fresh seasoned mung bean jelly at his dinner table. He grumbles to himself that he finds it unbelievable for someone to raise a deer in the yard instead of a dog or kitten, but he soon remembers the scene of the young man hugging the startled fawn with so much affection and lets out a reflective sigh. The hunter lets out a slight smirk from the corner of his mouth upon realizing the huge kind heart that his new neighbor has. He comments quietly that that young man from the big city is really a very unusual and fascinating person. Meanwhile, firm steps echo along the dirt road, announcing Kang Sai Hin's return after his journey. The young man walks tired back home, complaining that he spent absolutely all his spiritual energy today. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice calling for him and turns around with an expression of surprise on his face. He spots his younger brother waiting next to a luxurious white car near the gate of his new residence. The purple-haired young man opens a huge smile upon seeing his older brother return from his tiring walk in the countryside. Sai-woo tells cheerfully that he had a few days off in his work schedule and decided to come visit him by surprise. The young idol introduces his road manager, who also made a point of coming to welcome the young man. The man reveals with friendliness that that old wooden residence belonged to his grandmother and decided to recommend it. The manager asks if the house is habitable, and the young man answers with a calm smile that the place is very quiet. He invites the visitors to come in at once and suggests that they talk in a comfortable way, drinking hot tea. However, upon taking his first steps inside the land, the young idol stops suddenly with a shocked expression. His eyes widen upon contemplating the true state of preservation of the old wooden residence. He stands paralyzed, observing the aged wooden walls and the broken windows of that old construction. He complains, saying that that looks like a haunted house, but the young disagrees, claiming that he cleaned everything very well. He explains awkwardly that he only did a basic cleanup and that the major structural renovations will be done later. The manager agrees that the situation is pretty bad, while the younger brother looks surprised to the opposite side. Wu recognizes cheerfully the vegetable patches through the videos, and the young man asks when he watched them. The idol walks through the patches and confesses, surprised that the plants are beautiful and very well taken care of. Indeed, the manager also shows himself very impressed with the beauty of the vegetable garden, and the young man thanks them all timidly for the compliment. Suddenly, tears begin to well up in the manager's eyes, leaving Kang Sai-hai and completely confused with the reaction. The young man asks, startled, if the man is crying, and the manager tries to hide the embarrassment, wiping his nose. He explains emotionally that his late grandmother loved that place very much and used to say it was a true blessed spot. The manager says he feels relieved to leave the residence in such good hands and wishes that he be very happy there. Wu interrupts the emotional moment, pointing curiously to the glass greenhouse and asks to go take a look at it. The young idol opens a huge and radiant smile from ear to ear upon walking cheerfully through the interior of the greenhouse. And so the animated young man spends a good time running and exploring each small corner of that huge property. Seeing that his older brother looks infinitely healthier, Wu gets visibly happy and excited. His face displays a deep expression of relief and peace for finally seeing that his brother is recovering well. Without the brothers noticing time pass, the sun begins to set slowly, bringing the end of that beautiful afternoon. Already inside his luxury car, the purple-haired young man says goodbye to his older brother with an affectionate look. He admits that he was very worried, but now he feels relieved to see that his brother adapted so well to the countryside. He tells his brother to renovate the residence and install air conditioning because next time he will bring his entire musical group. Kang Sai-hyun just opens a gentle smile and agrees cheerfully to the enthusiastic request of his younger brother. Before the car starts for good, the young man catches his younger brother's attention with a calm and sweet tone of voice. He thanks him immensely for the surprise visit and asks for his younger brother to come back to visit him whenever he can. He also says goodbye to the friendly manager, who smiles and promises to make more visits in the future to see the vegetable garden. The young idol smirks and wishes that his beloved older brother keeps taking very good care of himself from then on. He warns with a mysterious look that he sent a special present and that the shipment should be arriving at his house. The car finally drives away, kicking up dust in the sunset, while the young man waves from afar, wishing them a good trip. Kang Sai-hyun stands there with a blank face and full of questions in his mind about what surprise that would be. The sound of the engine goes fading in the distance, while the beautiful orange light of twilight slowly covers the entire village. He decides to name the little one Bang Wool, which means small bell, because of the beautiful little bell that shines on its neck. We're in Gangnam, South Korea, at a place called RV Entertainment. The camera pulls up from street level to reveal a towering modern skyscraper, its glass facade gleaming against a bright blue sky filled with soft white clouds. From somewhere inside that building, a furious scream tears through the air. The cry explodes outward in a massive jagged speech bubble set against the building's glass exterior. And the source of that scream is immediately clear. Inside what appears to be a waiting or lounge area, a young man with short, messy auburn hair sits wide-eyed and open-mouthed, his whole face frozen in shock. His hands are crossed over his chest in an X shape, as if physically recoiling from something. He's wearing a white graphic t-shirt with a large blue X design on it. A phone is visible being held near him from below. This is Hisu, the main vocalist of the boy group Tracker. Hisu's horrified expression says it all. His jaw is dropped, his eyes blown wide, and sitting in the background on either side of him are two other young men, though their faces are turned away from us. From off to the side, a calm voice cuts through the chaos. Seated in a wooden chair, dressed in a neat navy blue vest over a white long-sleeved shirt, is a young man with short blonde hair and warm brown eyes. His expression is composed, though slightly startled, and he asks flatly, "Geez, you scared me. What's with the screaming all of a sudden?" This is Jerome, the main dancer of the boy group Tracker. Then from the other side, another voice chimes in. This young man has dark teal-gray hair swept to the side, sharp blue eyes, and a cool, guarded expression. He's wearing a blue polo shirt with a logo on the chest. He leans on the arm of his chair and asks, visibly unamused, "What's wrong? What are you looking at?" This is Leo, the leader and rapper of the boy group Tracker. The scene shifts to a wider view of the room. It is a modern indoor lounge, softly lit. In the background, a figure in a blue hoodie stands holding a phone while another person sits nearby. A pink-purple Korean sound effect floats above the scene. From that standing figure comes a gleeful, mischievous laugh. Heh. And now we see him clearly. Pink-haired, bright green-eyed, and grinning from ear to ear, a young man holds up his phone triumphantly, pointing directly at the screen with one finger. On the screen is a short video of a green caterpillar wriggling across a leaf. He announces proudly, "A caterpillar." This is Siwoo, the lead vocalist of the boy group Tracker. Siwoo's grinning face fills the frame, still holding that phone up with the caterpillar video on display. His expression is full of delight, completely unbothered by anyone else's reaction. Hisu, absolutely revolted, shouts with lines of shock radiating from his face. "Og, that's disgusting. Why are you watching something like that?" Meanwhile, Leo faces forward with the same irritation, jaw clenched. In the background, Jerome stands looking uncertain. Siwoo, however, is practically glowing, his face lit up in a cheerful smile as he casually replies, "Ah, it's my brother's channel." From off to the side, a voice responds, naming the channel, "Healing in the Countryside." The room is shown from a wider angle. Leo is standing now, one hand resting near Hisu, who is still seated. Siwoo stands in the background to the right, phone in hand. Then another voice responds, recognizing it immediately. "That channel, right." A fourth figure now enters the conversation. Seated apart in a separate chair, dressed in a sleek black blazer over a white shirt, this young man is composed and quietly sharp. He has short, dark brown hair and calm, heavy-lidded eyes. He holds up a phone in his right hand, the screen glowing with what appears to be a plant thumbnail. He says, "Kay, you've been watching it too." His introduction card appears at the bottom. This is Kay, the sub-vocalist of the boy group Tracker. Kay is shown again in a slightly wider view, still seated, phone held up at shoulder height with the screen shining. He is completely relaxed, legs crossed, expression unreadable but attentive. He answers simply, "Just because it's comforting. Watching his videos helps me sleep well." The background glows with soft, warm bokeh light. Then Siwoo's tiny chibi face appears in the corner of a speech bubble as he teases, "You like that kind of stuff, it doesn't really suit you." Siwoo speaks again, this time complimenting the channel's content casually. "By the way, your brother's pretty skilled with his hands." Hisu is visible from the side, holding his phone while Siwoo sits relaxed in the background, one arm resting behind him. A jagged Korean sound effect of surprise shoots up between them. Siwoo grins with his hand on his hip. A smaller voice replies curiously, "Really? Like what?" Hisu's face lights up, eyes bright and wide, as he scrolls through what is clearly the Countryside channel on his phone. Surrounding him in the image is an abundance of fresh vegetables, a basket filled with tomatoes, leafy greens, and carrots, all vivid and lush. Above his head sits a wide dish of beautifully plated seasoned greens sprinkled with sesame seeds. He speaks with genuine admiration. "The dishes look nice, the plating looks delicious." A second speech bubble adds, "Maybe because it's the countryside, but the vegetables look really fresh. It's almost like a photo shoot." Two small chibi-style speech bubbles sit at the top of the next image. The first one in Hisu's warm peachy tone reads, "At this rate, I think he'll hit 1 million subscribers." The second bubble with Kay's small face flatly corrects him. "Nope, 2 million. Below them, Siwoo fills the frame with a smug, satisfied expression, eyes half closed, one finger tapping his cheek as Korean squiggly lines of amusement surround him. He chuckles softly, "Oh, come on." The conversation continues warmly. Siwoo, still relaxed, throws out the suggestion, "Then let's all go visit together next time we get the chance." He adds, "He'll love it too." The wider view shows Hisu sitting on the sofa laughing happily, hugging his phone to his chest, while Siwoo sits on the opposite side of the glass coffee table. A small green plant in a white pot sits at the center of the table. Hisu calls back enthusiastically, "I'm down." But Hisu suddenly freezes. His expression shifts from excited to confused, brows furrowed, eyes slightly glazed. He stares at his phone with a puzzled look and says quietly, "Huh." He turns towards Siwoo, now clearly concerned, phone still in hand. But Siwoo, wait a second. Siwoo looks back at him, his cheerful expression dropping into something more neutral and questioning. He responds simply, "Why?" Hisu's eyes go wide again. He holds up his phone, and on the screen is a video showing what appears to be a small water deer peeking through tall grass, wearing what looks like a pink collar. Stars and yellow diamond shapes decorate the background around him. He stares at the phone with his mouth falling open and asks in stunned disbelief, "Does your brother raise a water deer too?" A close-up follows of a hand gripping something tightly in reaction. Then Siwoo is shown from a slightly lower angle. His cheerful demeanor is completely gone. With a close-up of a shiny disco ball hanging in the air, its reflective surface catching the light ring. The next image pulls back to show a lively gathering inside what looks like a community hall. Several people are seated around low wooden tables covered with food, drinks, and green vegetables. There is a young man in a blue and white sweatshirt sitting quietly at the center of the table. Around him, neighbors are eating, chatting, and making themselves comfortable. The atmosphere is warm and busy. Suddenly, the mood shifts into something more serious. A young man with light gray hair is standing at the front of the room holding a microphone. He smiles and announces that the 12th Dongwon District 1 Village meeting is now officially beginning. Standing just behind him is an older man wearing a green hoodie. The gathering moves into the next scene. Two older men are sitting near the food table. One of them, wearing a blue polo shirt, holds a small cup and asks with a frown whether something is going on in the village. The other man responds, asking if he did not read the handout that was given out. He explains that there have been petty thieves sneaking around lately. The blue-shirted man raises his finger dramatically. He says that last time, a woman named Soon I had her sweet potatoes stolen. He adds that on the mountain behind the new young man's house, someone dug up bracken and deodak as well. The crowd reacts with outrage. One voice shouts that this is downright rot. The entire gathering is stirred up, and people are shown from above, all visibly upset. Someone declares that whoever is doing this needs to be caught and taught a lesson. Another voice pushes back, pointing out that it is easy to say that, but asking whether anyone thinks the thief will just walk in with their hands up and ask to be arrested. The man in the cap, wearing a teal jacket, strokes his chin thoughtfully. The young man in the blue sweatshirt, sitting nearby, watches quietly in the background. Then someone speaks up with a suggestion. A woman standing at the front of the room raises her hand and proposes that they run regular patrols around the village. She adds that while they are at it, they can also check for fires and other dangers. The suggestion lands well. The young man in the gray hair and the older man behind him nod in agreement. Someone says it sounds good and asks if anyone has another idea or wants to object. Nobody does. A voice says that it is the first time in a while that old Jung has had a decent idea. The woman confirms the plan, announcing that they will all work together and catch the thief in the act. She adds that patrol duty will rotate by turn, and that is all for today's agenda. The scene outside transitions to a quiet night sky above rooftops, with someone's distant voice faintly complaining that their own dog cannot even recognize them. With the official business done, the mood lifts completely. Two men jump up wearing hats and start singing enthusiastically. One calls out that it is time to finish off the makgeolli. They belt out the lyrics to a traditional Korean song about rain falling over the Hanam line, dancing and waving the microphone around. Their energy fills the room. The young man in the blue sweatshirt watches from the side, mouth slightly open. He thinks to himself that they really move fast around here. Then a large hand reaches toward him from off-screen. A voice says simply, "Hey, you." The young man is startled. The older man in the green hoodie leans toward him with a cheerful smile and asks whether he is the young man who moved in on Ginkgo Tree Road. He says the name Si-hyun. The young man, now confirmed to be Si-hyun, reacts with wide eyes. A title card appears at the bottom, identifying the man as Lee Dongbak, Secretary General of the Gayeng County Sports Association and the village meeting's sponsor, who personally provided the makgeolli and boiled head meat for the gathering. Lee Dongbak grins and reaches out to shake Si-hyun's hand, introducing himself warmly as being from the sports association. Si-hyun responds politely, saying it is an honor to meet him. Dongbak then points out the rice cake tower that Si-hyun apparently brought, asking if that was indeed from him. Si-hyun laughs shyly, rubbing the back of his head, and confirms that it was his contribution since it was his first time meeting everyone. Dongbak and the others are impressed. Someone comments that the kid has manners, bringing something like that. Another voice says the rice cake turned out great and had plenty of red beans. Si-hyun, now drawn in a cute chibai-style expression, says he is glad it suits their taste. Dongbak looks at Si-hyun's build and asks if he works out at all. He says that with that frame, Si-hyun would be perfect for SIRM wrestling. Si-hyun blinks in surprise, clearly caught off guard by the suggestion, repeating the word in disbelief. The woman from the front of the meeting, who is now revealed to be the village head, steps in and tells Dongbak to stop it. She says he should train the people he already has instead of embarrassing the village. Dongbak laughs it off, saying their boys are doing just fine on their own. Si-hyun smiles awkwardly, looking flustered but amused. Then something unexpected happens. A small thumping sound is heard, and a little dog appears, nudging against Si-hyun. The room reacts with surprise as Si-hyun jumps back, shocked. He looks down and sees a small white and brown puppy sitting right there. He asks in alarm where the dog came from. Dongbak casually explains that it is his dog and its name is Baduk. What happens next astonishes everyone. The normally feisty Baduk, who apparently never lets even his own owner touch him, walks right up to Si-hyun and curls into his lap, looking completely relaxed and content. The room goes into an uproar. The village head exclaims in delight, saying that the feisty Baduk just curled right up in young Si-hyun's lap. Dongbok stares with wide, horrified eyes, unable to believe it. He sputters out Baduk's name in total disbelief. The village head laughs and says that animals always know good people first. Dongbok looks completely shaken. Even Baduk, still sitting in Si-hyun's lap, turns and gives one sharp bark toward his own owner. The evening winds down beautifully. The chapter narrates that wrapped in everyone's warm welcome, Si-hyun's very first village meeting came to an end. In the background, Dongbok's voice echoes as he yells at Baduk, asking how the dog cannot recognize his own master. A few days pass. The next sequence begins with a clear sky and mountain scenery, then cuts to Si-hyun standing outdoors near a greenhouse, holding a selfie stick with his phone attached. A small orange cat sits nearby. Si-hyun greets his viewers cheerfully, saying it has been 5 days and apologizes for being quiet. He explains he had hospital visits and a bunch of errands to run. But today he says he brought good news. He announces that his regular checkup results are in, and he has finally escaped the morbidly obese range. He throws his arm up in celebration, a big smile on his face. The orange cat cheers beside him. A small stat box appears showing his weight going from 123 kilograms down by 5 kilograms to 118 kilograms. He continues, saying he also got permission from his doctor for a cheat day. Shown in a flashback, Si-hyun is in a clinic talking to a doctor in a white coat. He explains that once a week, he is allowed one full meal where he can eat whatever he wants. So today he announces happily, his destination is a barbecue restaurant. The exterior of a traditional-style outdoor grilling spot is shown, steam rising from the grill. Si-hyun sits down at the grill table with all his food spread out. The meat is already sizzling on the grill, and the spread looks incredible. Si-hyun narrates for his viewers with great enthusiasm. First, he shakes the water off the lettuce leaves. Then he gently places a perilla leaf right on top. He picks up 2 perfectly grilled slices of samgyeopsal with his chopsticks and lays them onto the wrap. He adds a bit of garlic and a touch of samjang sauce. Then, with the entire wrap folded up, he opens wide and pops the whole thing into his mouth. The reaction is immediate. Si-hyun's eyes go wide, his cheeks flush. He describes what he is experiencing in vivid detail. A nutty aroma, like a fire spirit brushing against his skin, lingers in his mouth. Then comes the rush of rich juices, like a spring that runs deep in the forest. He marvels that vegetables grown with the strength of the earth and the life of a pig that nature raised over many seasons are all flowing together as one in his mouth. He concludes that the principles of the world itself are wrapped up in this single bite. He can only call it beautiful. Si-hyun then decides that the meal is finally worthy of bringing out a special surprise he had been saving. He reaches off-screen and brings back a bowl full of deeply red, pungent, aged kimchi. He explains that this aged kimchi is from the crocs at the village head's place. He says the elders loaded him up with side dishes after the village meeting. He takes a piece of the meat and wraps it directly inside the kimchi and eats it. The burst of tangy, funky kimchi combined with the samgyeopsal is described as perfect harmony. Si-hyun sits back with a hand on his cheek and chopsticks loosely in his hand, completely blissed out. He says he thinks he is really feasting today. The narration says that surrounded by the power of fire and meat, Si-hyun kept eating for quite some time. As he lies back contentedly after finishing the meal, he says he cannot remember the last time he ate this much. He mutters to himself that he got so lost in the food he just kept eating without saying a word to the camera. He laughs softly and thinks that next time he should try to stay at least a little more composed. He adds, embarrassed, that it was embarrassing. Suddenly his phone buzzes and lights up. The orange cat that had been resting nearby flies into the air in startled shock, completely freaking out. Si-hyun sits up quickly and sees that the village head is calling. He wonders what it could be about. He answers the phone and says this is Si-hyun speaking. The village head responds warmly on the other end, calling him young Si-hyun. She says she is calling about the orchid. She explains that it was in such bad shape when Si-hyun received it, and she had worried she had dumped too much work on him. Si-hyun responds happily. He says he was actually planning to bring it over tomorrow anyway. He tells her not to worry because he has nursed the little plant back to health. Shown in the current scene, a healthy potted plant with green leaves is visible behind him. The village head is delighted and says he took such good care of it that she ought to pay him for it. Si-hyun is startled and says it is fine, that he did not do it expecting anything. The village head insists. She says he should never turn down money an elder gives him. She tells him to just think of it as pocket money and take it, saying it is only because she is grateful. She adds firmly that she will send it straight to his account and he should not argue. Si Hyun, completely flustered, agrees with a shy, reddened expression. He hangs up and checks his phone. A notification pops up immediately from the banking app. He says in surprise that the village head already sent it. He looks at the screen and freezes completely. His eyes go wide and spiral. He drops his phone in shock. It bounces down the steps of the porch in slow motion. The orange cat stares. Si Hyun collapses backward onto the steps, catching himself just in time, shouting in complete disbelief, asking what is happening. A close-up of the screen is shown. The bank notification displays a deposit of 5 million won. With a flashback, an old man dressed in a long brown robe and hood, holding a wooden staff, stands in a dark forest lit by floating embers of fire. He speaks to someone, saying that back in his druid days, his master once told him something important. The old man's words continue across the next few pages. He says that whether you are saving an orchid or using ivy to bind an enemy's feet, if a druid shows his skill, he should be properly rewarded for it. The world runs on give and take, and if you are overpaid, life will toss more work your way. He would say all of this in a carefree and relaxed way. Now we see a young boy with light brown hair and green eyes, wearing a yellow hooded cloak with fur trim, sitting by a campfire in the dark forest. He is listening to the old man speak. The fire crackles around them as he absorbs every word. We shift to the present day. A phone screen lights up with a banking notification. 5 million won has been deposited into an account. The amount causes a visible shake of disbelief. This is Kang, our main character. He mutters to himself that it is not 50,000, it is 5 million, and asks himself what he is supposed to do with this kind of money. Kang thinks back on the situation. He felt he had to return the money, so he tried calling the village head again, but all he got was a furious scolding. The village head, shown with pink hair and golden eyes, appears on the phone call screaming, asking if Kang is seriously going to turn down his sincerity. The village head absolutely refuses to take the money back. Kang sits outside thinking quietly. His orange and white cat sits beside him. Kang decides that in that case, he will just have to make the village head a gift of his own. He stands up with a determined and cheerful expression, hands on his hips. His cat watches him with a flat look. Kang looks out at his yard and speaks to himself. He mentions that it just so happens it is almost time to harvest the grapes. The camera pulls back to show a stunning view of lush grape vines around a traditional Korean building, the clusters of dark purple grapes sparkling with moisture. Kang thinks that if he uses the best grapes to make wine, the village head will definitely like it. The next image shows a close-up of Kang smiling softly, calm and content. Then Kang sits at a low round table with his laptop, typing away. He thinks to himself that times like these really make the internet feel convenient. If you need something, you can get it with just a few taps. The caption box then tells us what happens next. Kang ordered a 220-liter French oak barrel. It was not cheap. The barrel alone cost close to 1 million won, but then again, fair is fair. Kang is shown smiling at his laptop, clearly satisfied with the purchase, while the image of a large wooden barrel floats above him like a dream. Kang speaks to himself again, remembering his past life as a druid. Back then, he had so much oak around him that he was practically tripping over it. He says he kind of misses those days. He smiles gently while looking out at the yard. Then Kang stands up and looks toward his property gate. A doorbell rings. Kang steps outside, and at the gate stands a muscular older man wearing a yellow hard hat, dark overalls, and black gloves. He is carrying a toolbox and has arrived with a truck full of lumber behind him. Kang opens the gate and sees the man, reacting with surprise. The man greets Kang cheerfully and asks if this is Mr. Si Hyun's place. Kang confirms it. Kang asks who the man is. The man hands him a business card. The card reads in Korean, Yu Seonju Carpenter. Services include repair, processing, and woodworking. Kang looks at the card with wide eyes. The carpenter explains that he is here at Si Woo's request. Kang blinks in disbelief and says Si Woo's name as a question. A little later, we see the carpenter up on a ladder inside Kang's kitchen, inspecting the ceiling with a pumped fist like he found something serious. Kang stands below, watching nervously. The carpenter reports his findings. He says that at this rate, the kitchen will collapse in the next typhoon. The ceiling is basically held up by one plank, and the kitchen pillar has been almost completely eaten through by termites. He shows Kang a terrifying image, a stylized close-up of the rotted pillar with a bug creature crawling on it. Kang is shocked and asks if it is really that bad. The carpenter crosses his arms seriously. Kang thinks about it. In his past life as a druid, his home was built into trees, rocks, and hillsides, basically just another part of nature. He had not felt that inconvenient living that way, and he had figured he would get used to it over time and tried to tough it out. But the carpenter reassures him. He says it is still a pretty good tile-roofed house. The rafters and main floor pillars look sound. The frame is decent. The real problem is the termites. If you leave them, they will chew through the whole thing, make the frame unstable, and they can even cause allergic reactions and bites. Kang then asks how much this will cost. The carpenter smiles and says it is not as much as Kang is imagining. He also mentions that for major repairs on a hanok in this area, there is subsidy money available to apply for, and it will probably cover about half the cost. Kang decides. He tells the carpenter he will be in his care. The carpenter waves off the formal address, telling Kang to just call him Carpenter Yu. He adds that since Kang is Si-woo's big brother, he will make sure to go over everything with extra care. The carpenter leaves and Kang bows politely and says thank you, get home safe. Kang's cat rolls on the ground nearby as the truck drives away. Kang feels relieved. He thinks to himself that knowing there is support for the repairs takes a huge load off his mind. He smiles and says it looks like it is going to be a full-scale renovation. Kang stands outside looking at his traditional Korean house in the golden evening light. He wonders quietly what the house will look like when it is all done. The narration tells us that lost in thought, Kang stared at the house for a long time, not even noticing the sun going down. A few days later, we are at Gayang Market. The setting is a covered traditional marketplace, busy with people and vendors. Kang is there shopping, carrying a tote bag. Suddenly someone calls out to him, asking what he is doing out there. Kang startles with a yelp. He turns around to see an older man in a dark cap and a blue-green vest. The man looks at Kang's shopping bag and raises an eyebrow. He comments that Kang's things consist of a few vegetables, some tofu, and soybean water. He jokes that it looks like rabbit food and asks if Kang is joining a monastery. Kang sheepishly explains that he orders other stuff online because it is cheaper. The older man in the cap shrugs and says Kang still looks like he is eating well. He even compliments Kang, saying he looks much better than when he first came, and that he even has a neck now. Kang laughs and thanks him. The man in the cap then asks what Kang is doing over at that part of the market. Kang turns to look at a small shop sign behind him and scratches the back of his head. He explains that he wanted to ask about selling some herbs. He mentions that he went up the mountain the other day and dug up a few things. The man in the cap repeats the word herbs with surprise, clearly not expecting that. Kang nods and says it is just that and that he is serious about it. We then cut back in time, a few days earlier, to show Kang running through a forest path, sweating and panting. He shouts at someone named Bangwol, saying that if Bangwol runs off like that, this is no longer a walk. We see a tiny, adorable deer-like creature with big eyes and a pink ribbon on its back, bounding ahead of Kang through the forest. Suddenly, Kang stops. He notices something. He sees a large glowing root on the ground, and the little creature Bangwol is holding a smaller one in its mouth. Kang stares wide-eyed and asks what that is, and then asks since when do deer dig up herbs. Back in the present at the market, the man in the cap bursts out laughing at Kang's story. Kang insists he is serious. The man in the cap then tells Kang that if he wants to sell herbs, he should have asked him first. He says there is a better place than this market and offers to introduce Kang. Kang perks up and says, "Really?" The man in the cap smiles and tells Kang to follow him. He adds that for things like that, Kang needs a specialist to look at them. Kang blinks and repeats the word specialist with a curious expression. We then see a small coffee cup being placed on a table with a soft clink. A wide shot shows a row of traditional hanok rooftops. Someone sits with the coffee, looking out. A voice says with mild irritation, "What are those two up to in this heat?" The viewer can now see an overhead angle of two figures, one of whom appears to be a young man with silver-white hair and dark roots, and another person beside him, both seen from above in what looks like a dark narrow space or Someone asks a pointed question. The specialist they were told about was the village head all along. Two young men are sitting side by side on a sofa. One has gray hair and is dressed in a green vest over a white shirt, casually holding a cup. The other has dark hair and is wearing a blue sweatshirt, covering his mouth with his hand in clear surprise. Across from them sits a woman whose back is turned to us, a cup of coffee resting on the table in front of her. Both young men look caught off guard by the question. A small speech bubble appears at the bottom, and the woman responds calmly. She calls herself a collector. Just a hobby, she says. She picks up a bit of everything and sometimes helps people sell what they find. She then asks, with a casual tone, "You know how it goes, right?" Now we see the older woman being spoken about. She has silver gray hair pulled back softly, round glasses, and a gentle but alert face. A small speech bubble appears above from someone off-screen, a man whose face is shown in a small circular portrait at the top. He tells her that a young man named Kang has come and wants to sell her some herbs. The older woman pauses mid-sip, holding her teacup with both hands, steam rising from it. Her eyebrows lift slightly. "Herbs," she repeats quietly to herself, her expression thoughtful and curious. Kang, the dark-haired young man, leans forward toward a counter or table, both hands holding a small dark cloth bag. He looks eager and a little nervous, announcing with a bright expression that this is what he has brought. The older woman reaches into the bag and opens it slightly to look inside. Her eyes go wide. She mutters to herself, probably just some bellflower or something she had expected. But then something stops her completely. Her hands freeze on the bag. A sharp sound effect bursts across the top of the image in Korean, a sudden shock. The older woman's glasses are shown in a close-up, one lens reflecting a glowing circular light. Her expression is one of pure disbelief. The reveal comes fast. She holds up a ginseng root, its long pale body dangling from her fingers, topped with 5 green leaves. Her voice rings out loud, ginseng, wild ginseng. She is barely able to contain herself, shooting up from her seat with the root raised high. The gray-haired young man and Kang both react in shock. The gray-haired young man stares blankly, mouth open. Kang sits behind him, also stunned. The older woman, seen from above, has knocked back from the table. Her bag lies flat. 2 coffee cups sit undisturbed, while the 2 young men are completely frozen in place. A large question mark and exclamation point appear across the bottom, capturing the chaos of the moment perfectly. Kang stares, completely pale, his blue-tinted hair slightly disheveled. He asks quietly, wild. He clearly had no idea what he had brought. The older woman's face appears in a split image alongside Kang's. Her mouth is wide open, eyes blank, her whole body trembling. She shakes and cries out, "You little rascal." Then the view pulls back to show the whole neighborhood from above, the quiet streets, the traditional-style buildings, the fields and greenhouse structures nearby. And over this peaceful rural view, a single caption reads, "The village head's shout echoed through the entire neighborhood." Full image of a glowing plant reaching up through the forest, its thick roots soaking in the mountain's clean energy. The narration tells us these are roots that grew for decades, untouched by any human hand, drinking deep from the mountain. What we are looking at is a wild ginseng, also known as sansam, and its body is shown fully in the next image, huge and powerful, glowing with a bright green light as it floats in the dark forest air. It is an extraordinary specimen. We cut to a woman with gloves, holding the ginseng carefully in both hands. Her eyes are wide and her mouth is open in shock. She tells us that among all the wild ginseng out there, the Xinjiang ginseng that Kang brought back is over 50 years old, making it incredibly rare. She goes on, barely able to contain herself, saying its value could run from tens of millions of won all the way up to hundreds of millions. Kang, a young man in a blue and white sweater, stands nearby, scratching the back of his head with a small laugh. Behind him, the older man in the green vest and cap, Kang's village neighbor, stands to the side, grinning. The woman turns to Kang and demands to know where on earth he found something this precious. Kang answers casually that it was near the top of the mountain outback, and that the water deer he is raising dug it up. The woman reacts immediately, "What nonsense is he talking about, raising a water deer?" Kang insists it is true and even says he put a collar on her, adding warmly that he really dotes on her. To illustrate this, a soft pink fantasy image appears. A rounded, adorable little deer with a pink scarf and a small bell stands cutely behind Kang's grinning face. Meanwhile, the older man beside him looks on with a deadpan expression, completely unamused by this fantasy. He mutters that he has lived long enough, and now he has seen everything. The conversation moves along. The older man asks the woman whether it is even possible for the young man to sell the ginseng. She thinks about it for a moment, humming to herself, still holding the ginseng gently in her gloved hands. Then she says, "Absolutely, stuff like this sells faster than they can get it in." She takes photos of the ginseng right there on the spot, announcing she will send them to the Ginseng Diggers Association and telling them to wait a little. She adds that it is hard to say without the buyer seeing it in person, but this one is easily over 30 million won, and with the right buyer, even triple that. But with pieces like this, she says, the story behind it matters too. Kang looks puzzled and asks what she means by the story. The woman raises one finger and smiles, launching into an old tale. She describes those traditional legends where, on the very day a ginseng digger was about to give up after 6 months of finding nothing, he nodded off briefly, saw the mountain spirit in a dream, and followed where it pointed to find a whole field of wild ginseng. The woman finishes with a grin and says that in Kang's case, they could say he followed a blessed omen, a lucky deer, and that is how he ended up finding it. Kang and the older man react to this with visible awkwardness, both clearly thinking this is a stretch. Kang mutters under his breath that it is a load of nonsense. Regardless, the woman waves it off cheerfully and tells them to just leave it to her. She will handle it properly and will not skim a single one off the top. The camera holds on the ginseng resting on the table, glowing quietly. Kang smiles and thanks her, addressing her as village head, saying he will be in her care. After leaving the wild ginseng with the village head, Kang and the older man step outside together. The village head waves goodbye from the gate of her large home, and Kang bows his head politely as they leave. They walk down the road side by side. The sound of a tractor rumbles nearby. The older man turns to Kang and asks what he thought of the village head's place. Nice and wide open, right? He adds that she is the richest household in the village. As they walk further, the older man explains more about the village head. He says her late husband used to be the president of a big company, building ships and cars, making his own fortune. But right when he finally retired and came to the village to rest, he fell ill and did not even last 3 years. The image shifts to a quiet and sad memory, a silhouette of the husband standing in a garden of white flowers, with a ghost-like quality to the image. The village head spent all that time nursing him, and just when she thought she might finally breathe again while raising the kids, all that time collecting herbs to keep her husband alive is what made her so sharp in that field. Now she does this kind of middleman work for fun. Kang takes this all in, looking quietly thoughtful, with greenhouse buildings visible in the background. He says simply, "I see." The older man goes on, "She may not have had much luck with her husband, but she has plenty of luck with money, and in that world she is a real big shot." He says since she is so well connected there, Kang should not worry at all about whether the ginseng will sell. Just then, the older man's phone buzzes. His eyes go wide with a sharp exclamation. He reads the message and tells Kang that speak of the devil, the village head just texted him. Looks like the buyer has already shown up. He scrolls further and tells Kang it says the Xinjiang wild ginseng has been verified at least 80 years old, and the final sale price is just under 100 million won. Kang's entire face transforms. His eyes go blank, his jaw drops open, and with a full scream of shock he shouts 100 million. He grabs his own sweater front with both fists, barely able to process this number. The older man reads more from the text, explaining that apparently a big-name company president, the kind everyone has heard of, bought it. He adds with a small laugh that it worked out pretty well, huh? Then he grabs Kang firmly by the shoulder and says, "Seriously, do not go around bragging about the money, and keep the ginseng thing to yourself." He holds Kang's sleeve with a firm grip, leaning in close with a knowing look. He says he just does not want anything bad happening over it, smiling in a sly but caring way. Kang snaps back to reality with a bright awe, and the memory of an old forgotten feeling washes over him. A text box says that in that moment, an old memory he had long forgotten overlapped with the present. The background shifts to a deep starry night sky, glittering with light. Text appears, the warm, sincere hand that reached out to him. Then the memory deepens into a campfire in a dark forest, where two robed figures sit side by side in the glow of green energy, a tall, bearded man in a large hood, and a younger, smaller figure wrapped in a fur-trimmed coat. The narration reads, "And the druid master who always stayed quietly by his side." Kang blinks back to the present with a soft, warm smile. He quietly tells himself it has been a long time since anyone worried about him like this. Still floating in that warm feeling, Kang cheerfully tells the older man that when the money comes in, he will buy him a plate of boiled pork at the market. The older man immediately fires back, "Fix that sweet potato field first, the one that blessed dear of yours tore up." As the evening light settles over the village and summer insects sing in the grass, the narration quietly notes that without even realizing it, Kang was slowly becoming part of this village. After the wild ginseng commotion died down, full-scale renovation began on Kang's house. Workers are shown hammering on the rooftop of the old traditional structure, and a wide aerial shot shows the entire property humming with activity. Construction workers, stacked materials, a parked truck, greenhouses being assembled, and rows of crops in the garden. Everything is moving all at once. The construction foreman, a big man in a yellow hard hat and dark overalls, hands Kang the remodeling plan. He tells Kang to take a look and let him know if there is anything to change. Kang takes the papers and looks at them with an open expression. The foreman walks him inside the stripped-open house, pointing up at the exposed rafters. The old ceiling that was just slapped underneath the original rafters has been torn out, and now they will restore the house to its original height and elegant proportions, just the way it was meant to be. Kang looks up at the open beams with wide eyes. The foreman continues the briefing. They will also extend inward to connect the old outhouse bathroom fully to the house, and including the main floor. The plan is to update the entire structure into a modern layout. Two workers in hard hats stand outside looking at plans near the old external bathroom, which is a small shed-like structure. Kang listens to all of this and says, "Wow, that sounds amazing." He reviews the plan and realizes the house has 3 rooms, a full bathroom, and a full kitchen. He says this house was bigger than he thought. He gives the go-ahead to proceed just like that. The foreman then asks what Kang wants to do about the outer wall. Kang's eyes light up and he presents his idea with a big grin. Tada. He holds up a drawing he made himself, a hand-drawn crayon sketch of an arched gate covered in red roses flanked by green trees. It is childlike and full of heart. He explains excitedly that he would like to plant big apple or persimmon trees along the outer wall and put in an arched gate covered in red roses, just like his drawing. The image blooms beautifully into a lush garden fantasy, a gorgeous rose arch entrance with pink flowers, an iron gate, and a stone path leading forward. The foreman raises an eyebrow and says that a lot of people do plant roses along their walls, and the thorns do work as a kind of natural fence. But in terms of actual security, roses alone will not do much. He suggests that honestly, Kang would be better off installing a motorized gate system. Kang clarifies quickly, a little flustered that's not what he meant. He is not worried about security. He explains that roses are useful in all sorts of ways. You can brew them into tea. They have antibacterial properties. His expression goes soft and dreamy as he speaks, surrounded by blooming rose imagery, finishing with the most important reason of all, and above all, they are beautiful. The foreman stares at him with a completely bewildered face, a question mark popping over his head. The foreman relents very well, he says. They will just need to move quickly to secure the back wall for safety reasons too. At that moment, a small orange and white tabby cat wanders in between them, letting out a soft meow and flicking its tail. Kang looks down and smiles, saying warmly that he will be in their care. The cat sits there between the feet of the two men, looking calm and comfortable. The tabby cat becomes a regular presence at the construction site, shown sitting in the middle of the workyard as Kang stands among scattered building materials, looking over plans. The narration reads, like winter quietly giving way to spring. Kang stands in the yard as workers move around him, and he is shown reading the plans with a peaceful expression. That shabby old house slowly began to regain its shape. A wide, gentle image follows workers moving around the partly restored traditional rooftop, green leaf spirits drifting through the air, and the tabby cat sitting and watching. The narration says, a place where the wind finds its path and sunlight stops to rest for a while. And just like when he lived as a druid, it would become a home where nature breathes and blends together. That night, Kang clicks off a lamp and settles down to call someone. He is sitting cross-legged on the floor of the greenhouse, the tabby cat curled up beside him, speaking on the phone in his pajamas. He tells whoever is on the line that if things go well, the work could finish in as little as 2 weeks. The person on the other end, revealed to be a young person with short pink-purple hair and bright green eyes, who is standing in what looks like a recording studio or agency building, reacts with surprise. Wait, so until then you are really going to sleep in the greenhouse? Kang laughs and says yeah, at least he will get some extra vlog content out of it, and surprisingly it is cozy and comfortable. The narration notes he has turned into a full-blown YouTuber now. The pink-haired person introduced here, as Siwoo is standing near a large promotional poster on the wall for something called Tracker World Tour. Someone in the background calls out to Siwoo that they are starting the shoot soon. Siwoo, still on the phone, asks Kang how his schedule is. Siwoo replies casually, same as always, practice, record, travel. It is non-stop. They are heading out for a Europe tour soon, and jet lag is what Siwoo is dreading the most. Siwoo stands with back turned, looking at the Tracker World Tour poster as he speaks. Kang tells Siwoo to make sure he is okay, and not to push himself too hard and take care of his health. Siwoo responds lightly, hey, being busy is good, not just anyone gets to be an idol. For now, worry about your own body instead of mine. Siwoo promises to find some time to drop by before heading to Europe so they can meet then. Kang says he is hanging up, sitting there in his pajamas in the warm glow of the greenhouse. He smiles softly and wishes Siwoo to sleep well. Siwoo gives only a short silent pause and reply dots appear in the speech bubble without words. Then Kang is shown close up, head tilted slightly, face soft and just slightly sad. The narration says, there was a smile in Siwoo's voice, but nothing about it was really funny. He knew Siwoo was running without a break, and it quietly ached that all he could do was cheer him on from afar. Kang lies there holding himself, the tabby cat resting near his shoulder, staring quietly upward. All he could do was hope the renovations would finish safely, so Siwoo could come and rest here without any worries. The camera pulls back to a wide shot of the two greenhouses from above at night, glowing softly under the dark sky. And then the narration gives the final, quiet line of this moment. In that greenhouse soaked with starlight, Kang slowly drifted off to sleep. The final night image is Kang lying on his back, looking up through the transparent roof of the greenhouse at the wide open night sky full of stars, the trees visible just beyond the frame. The next morning on the mountain outback, the image shows a clear blue sky and mountain forest just waking up. Then Kang appears on the mountain path, calling out loudly, Bangwol. He is crouched forward slightly, mouth wide open, looking urgent. Bangwol, the little water deer with her pink scarf and bell, is right there on the path, ears perked. Kang scolds her with 2 big shouts. He tells her she cannot just go shredding the baby sprouts like this, and that she ate all the lettuce in the garden too. Bangwol turns toward him with a slightly defensive posture, like she is pretending she did nothing wrong. Nearby on the ground, tiny glowing sprouts show where the damage was done. Every morning, an hour at dawn, that is how Kang's day begins, tending the mountain behind the house. He is shown yawning wide among the trees, a small puff of cool air coming out, birds circling above him. He checks on the new sprouts and listens to the complaints of the little lives around him. A magical and warm image shows Kang sitting on the forest floor, surrounded by 2 white rabbits, a big brown tanuki, small chicks, and a squirrel on his shoulder, with a large bird flying above, all gathering around him as he tends to a tiny seedling. Green energy glows softly around them all. He is smoothing out the forest's scattered natural energy from the night before. Of course, the narration adds, if this little one had not caused trouble, it would have been much easier. Kang glances sideways with tired eyes as Bangwoo stands in the light, golden sparkles and flower petals floating around her, eyes closed happily and completely unaware that she is in trouble. Kang says it is hard to scold her too much after she led him to wild ginseng. Ever since Bangwoo started tagging along and soaking up natural energy by his side, a close-up shows Bangwoo nosing curiously into a thick patch of green plants, her big eyes curious and innocent. The narration continues. You would never guess she was injured, her coat gleams, and she is livelier than ever. And the comments on his videos keep asking to see more of Bangwoo. A shot shows Kang's phone or tablet screen open on YouTube, with a video thumbnail showing Bangwoo happily trotting through a forest. Kang reads the comments filling the screen, surrounded by pink hearts. Comments flood in, please show more dear. Bangwoo is too cute, she's seriously adorable, lol, please show her more. Kang sits with his chin resting on one hand, looking quietly defeated as he reads. He thinks to himself, whenever Bangwoo shows up, views shoot up, more than on my videos alone. And sure enough, the next moment, he calls out to her again in the dark forest path with a shout, hey, you little freeload. Bangwoo stands on the path in the dim blue twilight, looking at him with large round eyes. A sharp exclamation mark appears. Kang stands across from her, pointing, as rain-like motion lines suggest the energy of his frustration. The two of them stare at each other on the mountain path as the chapter draws toward its close. Kang at his wit's end with the little water deer who keeps eating his garden, stealing his views, and somehow remaining completely impossible to stay mad at. The 2 thieves from earlier have come back to the mountain. They are busy gathering the mushrooms growing in the area. The man wearing the hat notices that his partner is harvesting them incorrectly and starts scolding him, complaining that even after all these years, his lackey still hasn't figured out the proper way. The lackey insists that he does know how to collect them correctly, but admits that he became impatient. He warns that they need to be extra cautious now because the mountain belongs to someone else. The man in the hat laughs at him, reminding him that they've been visiting this same place for years. He tells his partner to stop slacking off because they still have work to finish. As he continues deeper into the forest, he discovers an entire patch covered with matsutake mushrooms. He immediately calls the lackey over. The two realize they've struck it lucky, with so many large and healthy mushrooms growing in one place. The man in the hat begins picking them and then questions why his partner is simply standing there. The lackey suddenly calls out to Yu, warning him that something doesn't feel right. Around them, several wild animals have stopped what they're doing and are silently watching the 2 men. Yu looks around and wonders why all these animals have gathered there. Yu tells his lackey not to panic and orders him to continue harvesting before they waste any more time. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble beneath them. Thick fog slowly spreads through the forest, surrounding the 2 men. At the same time, the animals begin violently stomping their feet against the earth. One by one, the animals start moving toward the frightened bandits. A deer suddenly speaks, but the voice belongs to Kang. He tells them, so you chose to ignore my warning. People are always afraid of things they cannot understand. Kang had believed that fear would be enough to drive them away, but apparently their greed had overcome that fear. With a stern look, Kang declares that because of that, he cannot simply allow them to leave. The 2 bandits immediately turn and run as the angry animals pursue them. Kang warns them that he will make certain they never return to this mountain again. The animals continue chasing the terrified thieves through the forest. The lackey, completely panicked, asks Yu what those strange creatures even are. Yu admits that he has no idea and tells him to keep running without turning around. Behind them, a furious boar glares at Yu while charging after them at full speed. Using Orin as a conduit, a druid is able to connect every living creature within the forest into a single network. Those linked by this power effectively become part of the forest itself, allowing them to work together to force unwanted intruders out. Kang becomes annoyed, remembering that he had been carefully cultivating those matsutake mushrooms for the upcoming village meeting. Meanwhile, after running continuously for a long time, the 2 bandits are completely worn out. Yu suddenly realizes that something isn't right. They have been running in circles without realizing it. The lackey becomes convinced that this forest is far from normal and insists that they need to escape immediately. Still trying to flee, the two suddenly come face to face with Bambi, who is attempting to frighten them away. The lackey is startled, but then realizes that it's only a baby deer. Yu, already breathing heavily and irritated, grabs his shovel. He charges toward Bambi and orders her to move out of his way, while the little deer's expression turns desperate. Bind their legs. Suddenly, thick vines shoot out from the ground and coil around Yu and his lackey, lifting both of them helplessly into the air. A little while later, Kang contacts the village chief at the entrance to the forest. The village leader steps out of her car, already furious when she sees the two thieves. Kang is relieved that she has finally arrived. Concerned, the leader asks whether Kang was injured and if catching the thieves caused him any trouble. She then looks at the two bandits and wonders why they look completely battered. Kang casually says they might have fallen while trying to escape. The moment she gets a proper look at them, the furious leader recognizes the pair. She says they've finally managed to catch the actual thieves this time. The police officer tells them there's no point pretending they are innocent, because they were caught on camera trying to sell the stolen goods. Yu begins explaining what happened, claiming that the trees attacked them and that all the animals suddenly went crazy. He then turns toward Kang, insults him by calling him chubby, and asks if he's the owner of the mountain. He even tells the officer to investigate Kang, accusing him of being some kind of shaman. The leader immediately loses her temper. She steps toward the bandit while gripping a stick and demands to know what he just said. She calls him a complete lunatic. She angrily threatens to use his guts as a jump rope or kick his skull around like a soccer ball. Kang is caught off guard by just how furious the village leader has become. The officer tells everyone that he'll take care of the situation and handle the details. Yu desperately insists that the trees really attacked them and that the mountain is haunted. A priest who happens to overhear him immediately speaks up, asking why Yu would spread such lies on the Lord's land. Kang turns around. He notices the priest standing there and starts wondering who exactly this man is. In Kang's previous life, the clergy had always seemed to fall into two very different groups. There were greedy people who behaved almost like goblins, while others completely exhausted themselves in service of their faith. Druids weren't technically part of the clergy, but their way of life was surprisingly similar to those who devoted themselves to the divine. They demonstrated their beliefs through the hardships they willingly endured. The world often referred to such people as seekers or ascetics. Kang silently wonders what kind of priest the man standing before him actually is. Still irritated, the priest asks if stealing wasn't already bad enough. Did they really need to lie about it afterward as well? He reminds them that the scriptures teach that those who conceal their sins may prosper for a time, while those who continue denying them only sink further into the abyss. He adds that calling the mountain haunted is practically an act of blasphemy against the monastery. The officer dismisses their excuses, saying they're obviously making up stories to avoid taking responsibility. He has already confirmed the footage showing what really happened. He introduces Kang as the owner of the mountain, and explains that Kang chased the thieves as soon as he discovered them stealing. Kang introduces himself and mentions that he hasn't been living there for very long. The priest politely says it's a pleasure to meet him and introduces himself as Matt. He explains that the monastery is under his care. Matt says he had been away dealing with church matters and admits that failing to properly control access to the mountain was his responsibility. Kang quickly tells him that it wasn't his fault. In fact, Kang himself was the one who had caused all the commotion. The monastery father Matt managed was located along the same ridge as Kang's property. Crossing over just one slope would take someone directly to the monastery. With such a large area under his responsibility, it would be unreasonable to put all the blame on Matt. Yet, despite that, he was the first one to lower his head and accept responsibility without making a single excuse. From that simple action alone, Kang could already tell what kind of person Matt was. The village leader checks the thieves' bags and discovers just how much they had taken. They had practically emptied the area, stealing all kinds of ingredients that could be sold for a decent amount of money. She suggests that Kang and the priest divide the recovered goods between themselves. Kang refuses, saying the ingredients had already been gathered for the next village meeting. Matt also says he doesn't need anything, explaining that the food was intended for the elders anyway. The officer announces that he'll take the two bandits to the station because there is still plenty to investigate. Still furious, the village leader tells him to make sure the thieves receive a harsh punishment. The officer tells Kang that he'll contact him later with the remaining details. Even after the police car drives away, Stella continues angrily cursing at the thieves. Hearing the village chief's colorful choice of words, both Kang and Matt can't help but smile. And just like that, the entire incident with the thieves disappears like a bad gust of wind. A few days after the renovation was completed, Kang's house looked far cleaner and more organized than it had before. Stella looks around and says she can barely recognize the place. She had expected the young man to need much more time to finish repairing everything. Kang explains that there are still a few things left to fix, but they shouldn't take much longer. Stella compliments him, saying that the house finally looks like a genuinely comfortable place to live. Since she is already there, Kang offers to prepare a meal using some of the ingredients he had harvested himself. Stella gladly accepts and thanks him for the invitation. Just then, a voice comes from outside Kang's gate, calling out to him. "Grandpa Young." Young walks straight into the young man's house. Kang asks what brings him there, and Young explains that he was hoping Kang could spare him some more lettuce. The vegetables from the store simply don't taste as good as the ones Kang grows. Kang tells him he'll pick another full basket for him, and asks whether he'd like some cabbage as well. Anything that passed through a druid's hands seemed to become different in both taste and nutritional value. When plants receive exactly what they need, there's almost no way for them not to flourish. While gathering the vegetables, Kang casually asks whether the priest sells soap. Stella confirms that he does, and explains that he occasionally brings some to the senior center. Kang wonders aloud whether the monastery survives entirely through donations. Young explains that the monks are actually self-sufficient, so there isn't much reason for ordinary believers to visit the monastery. The conversation then turns toward bamboo. They mention that harvesting it has become increasingly difficult, and that they may soon have to stop altogether. Stella says that the priest has been especially concerned about the issue lately. Kang simply remains quiet, listening to their conversation. Father Mateo seemed like a genuinely good person, and Kang felt that reaching out to someone like him would come naturally. He decided to keep thinking about how he might be useful to Mateo someday. A short while later, Kang returns carrying a dish he prepared himself, tomato salad. Stella immediately gets excited. Looking at the plate, Stella points at the pieces beside the tomatoes and asks if they're cheese. Kang confirms it and explains that he decided to prepare something a little different for everyone. Young and Stella each take a bite. Their faces flush almost immediately as they stare at the food in surprise. They praise the dish, calling it delicious, refreshing, and naturally sweet. Kang is pleased that both of them are enjoying what he made. Stella, who often struggles with gastritis, says the food feels incredibly gentle and soothing on her stomach. Young, already wanting more, asks if he can take some tomatoes home. Stella immediately scolds him, asking what Kang is supposed to eat if Young takes everything. Young protests that he's not some wild animal that survives entirely off whatever grows outside. A smile spreads across Kang's face. For a druid, hearing someone say that the crops you've grown are delicious is one of the greatest compliments possible. Kang tells them he'll go and pick a few more tomatoes. Nature gives happiness to people, while people take care of nature in return. Kang knew he stood directly at the center of that cycle, and realizing it made him genuinely happy to live the life of a druid. Meanwhile, somewhere inside a beauty salon in Jeongdam, a girl is being called adorable. One person tells everyone that they should subscribe and asks the girl to leave a nice comment. Sue says he'll take care of it for him. Then he points out that it's actually his brother's channel and asks why Hisu is promoting it so aggressively. Hisu denies that she's promoting anything, saying she's simply being a loyal fan. She explains that if Sue keeps all of this to himself, he'll get sick, and they need to help increase the subscriber count a little so the engagement doesn't drop. They all understand how it feels. Posting videos without anyone watching isn't particularly fun. Hisu jokes that if Doubly ever stops making videos, she'll lose her favorite meal buddy. Sue looks confused and asks who Doubly is. Hisu explains that it's the nickname she gave him because his voice becomes incredibly soft whenever he talks to Bambi. She asks Sue whether the name doesn't match the channel's atmosphere perfectly. Sue isn't convinced. Hisu then asks whether Sue's brother really owns the channel and jokes that he must be just as handsome as Sue. Sue confidently agrees. He says his brother gained some weight after becoming sick, but when they were younger, everyone used to say that he was even more handsome. Hisu is stunned. To her, it sounds like discovering a hidden lottery ticket. She becomes curious about what Doubly is actually like in person, and her eyes immediately light up. Sue asks why she's suddenly looking so excited. Hisu explains that since their team is already planning to create their own content, they could simply record some videos while they're at it. Sue asks if she means filming at his brother's house. Meanwhile, at Kang's house, a powerful rainstorm begins. Starting that week, the rainy season is expected to spread across the country. Heavy storms are especially likely throughout the southern and central inland areas. Kang is lying on the floor when he hears the weather report and looks completely stunned. He feels relieved that the renovation was completed before the storm arrived. As the late summer monsoon begins, heavy raindrops hammer against the roof. Carpenter Yu's renovation work has turned out better than Kang could have imagined. The house is so comfortable that simply lying on the floor and rolling around feels wonderful. Kang almost forgets that renovating the house hadn't even been part of his original plans. He quickly reminds himself that now isn't the time to think about that and heads outside to check his harvest while looking through the comments. He mentions that he's going to the village hall, where he'll be eating meat and matsutake mushrooms together with the villagers. It's his first time trying matsutake, so he's excited about it. He also reminds himself that staying healthy means eating plenty of vegetables instead of filling up only on meat. His subscriber count has continued to rise. Unfortunately, the number of hateful comments has increased along with it. Still, there are plenty of people supporting him, and because of them, the comment section has remained fairly clean. In an anonymous world, Kang couldn't understand the mindset of people who went out of their way to insult others. At the same time, he found it equally difficult to understand people who defended complete strangers with such passion. Either way, the support itself felt precious, and he appreciated it. At this point, there was only one person who continued insisting on the theory that Kang was an orc druid. Kang wonders who this mysterious person could possibly be. After harvesting enough lettuce and cabbage, Kang begins wondering how he's supposed to reach the village hall through weather like this. When he steps outside, he immediately realizes how difficult the journey is going to be. Then he spots a car approaching from the direction of the city. The vehicle stops directly in front of him. Jung asks what Kang is doing outside in such terrible weather and tells him to get inside quickly. He's going to the exact same place anyway. Inside the village hall, the delicious smell of grilled mushrooms and meat fills the air. Stella checks the microphone and prepares to begin the meeting. She explains that the thieves who were arrested weren't first-time offenders. They had committed several crimes before and were now officially under arrest. Their method had been simple. They would leave their vehicle near the village entrance, then use the mountain trail to sneak in and steal whatever they could find. Stella says most of the responsibility lies with the thieves, but admits that the village's security and management could still be improved. The director agrees with her. She then continues and asks everyone to pay attention. Now, let's give a round of applause to the village's #1 contributor. The villagers immediately applaud Kang several times. Kang looks pleased, especially since he's the one providing all the food for today's gathering. Stella raises her voice and tells everyone to eat well while celebrating the arrest of those criminals. An elderly man picks up a mushroom and takes his first bite. He immediately comments on how incredible the aroma and flavor are. Another villager agrees, saying the mushrooms are amazing and asking whether wild matsutake are really supposed to taste this good. Kang walks over and asks whether everyone is enjoying them. The first man who tasted them laughs and says the gathering has basically turned into a full feast. Kang asks whether they'd like to try eating the mushrooms in another way as well. Stella asks what he has in mind. Kang explains that he saw on YouTube that matsutake eaten as samhap is supposed to be especially delicious. The village leader looks at him in disbelief and asks whether he even realizes how valuable wild matsutake mushrooms are. She scolds Kang, telling him that if he wants to eat something that way, he should use ordinary mushrooms instead. She takes the prepared dish and makes Kang try it himself. Then she asks him how it tastes. Kang admits that it's good, but says the mushrooms are still better when eaten separately. The village leader immediately looks pleased that he finally agrees with her. A man sitting nearby tells Kang to listen to the expert, since Stella has already tried practically everything. Kang simply laughs and says he'll take their advice. One of the villagers thanks Kang, saying that without him, he would probably never have the chance to eat something this valuable. He explains that he was used to selling mushrooms like these, but rarely ever got to eat them himself. Kang tells him to eat as much as he wants, and asks whether he should grill some meat as well. The man tells him there's no need because the head of the youth association is already taking care of the grilling. He jokes that if Kang really wants to handle the meat himself, he should just become the next head of the youth association. Before finishing, the man tells Kang that if he ever needs any help, he only has to call. The head of the youth association was already in his late 40s and operated a poultry farm. Standing near him, Kang could catch the savory smell of dried feed grains. At that moment, Kang suddenly gets an idea and asks the man whether he could raise chickens at home. The leader is confused by the sudden question and asks where that idea came from. Kang explains that having chickens would mean getting fresh eggs directly, and besides, chicks are pretty cute. The man warns him that raising chickens has a troublesome side because things can get extremely messy. He reminds Kang that he just finished renovating his house and asks whether he's really planning to make it dirty all over again. Kang says he understands and decides that he'll think about it more carefully. He had always considered himself comfortable with nature, but rural life apparently still had plenty of things he didn't understand. As expected, a druid should know when to ask questions instead of pretending to understand everything. Sometimes, after learning the truth, it's wiser to leave certain ideas alone. Like a mature tree that doesn't need to spread every branch just to create shade. And beneath that shade, Kang realized that he too was slowly becoming part of the village. The following morning, heavy rain continues pouring over the village. Kang says he's already received 4 emergency weather alerts, and judging by the forecast, the rain isn't going to stop anytime soon. He explains that he's already prepared the greenhouse and cleared the drainage channels, so those areas should be fine. His biggest concern is the grapevines, because too much rain could cause them to collapse. Kang thinks that he could accelerate their growth with a spell, but doing that would probably mean he was no longer worthy of calling himself a druid. Instead, he trusts the vines and tells himself that they simply need to endure until the right time. Just then, Kang receives a call from Grandpa Jiang. Jiang speaks through the phone and calls for the young man. Kang immediately asks what happened. Jiang tells him to come over as quickly as possible. Kang asks whether he's feeling sick, but Jiang replies that if he were the one who was sick, he'd be calling an ambulance instead. He says number 28 is the one in trouble. A veterinarian is already there, but the situation isn't improving, so he needs Kang to hurry. Hearing the urgency in Jiang's voice, Kang becomes worried and asks whether the cow is sick. With thunder rumbling and the storm raging outside, Kang rushes to Grandpa Jiang's barn. Jiang calls out to him from the rear of the barn. Kang asks if that's the veterinarian and wants to know what happened. Jiang explains that number 28 suddenly lost all her strength and collapsed. The old man had given his cattle numbers instead of names. He explains that he did it because he didn't want to become emotionally attached to them when they would eventually be sold anyway. Even while saying that, his face looks pale and exhausted. Kang asks whether he should move number 34 into the next enclosure. Jiang says that cow is too sensitive and that he'd have to handle it himself if necessary. The veterinarian explains that their priority is getting number 28 back onto her feet. If cattle remain lying down for too long, their breathing can eventually be affected. He then asks whether Kang is the young man Jiang mentioned and whether he can lend a hand. Kang confirms it and moves closer, helping the veterinarian lift the cow. Seeing how much the animal is struggling, Kang tells the veterinarian to wait. He suggests calming her down before trying anything else. The veterinarian immediately says that sedatives aren't an option because the cow is pregnant. Kang explains that he wasn't suggesting medicine. Since he raises a deer himself, he has a way of calming animals when they become agitated. The veterinarian tells him that this isn't exactly the moment for jokes. Kang ignores him and begins humming softly inside the barn. The veterinarian is stunned that Kang would start humming at a time like this, but then he notices something strange. One by one, the cows around them begin settling down. The veterinarian watches in disbelief as the entire barn gradually becomes calmer. Kang asks how number 28 is doing and whether the veterinarian can treat her now. Instead of answering immediately, the veterinarian asks who Kang actually is. A little later, back at Grandpa Jiang's house, the veterinarian sits with a cup of coffee while Jiang offers one to Kang. Kang politely refuses and says he'll just have water because he doesn't drink caffeine. The veterinarian explains that number 28 developed a fever because of stress, which made her condition appear more serious than it actually was. Fortunately, the calf she was carrying was completely fine. Jiang thanks both of them, saying he can finally relax. The veterinarian, however, is still thinking about what happened. He asks Kang about the humming from earlier. Was that actually a song? How did the cattle calm down so quickly? Was it some kind of magic? He continues questioning him, asking what Kang really is and whether it's true that he raises a deer. Kang stammers while trying to come up with an explanation. The veterinarian keeps staring at him. Jiang notices the sudden interrogation and asks what all the fuss is about. The veterinarian then makes an unexpected request. He asks Kang if he could teach him that technique because it would be incredibly useful for a veterinarian. Agitated animals are difficult to handle, and being able to calm them down that easily would be an enormous advantage. Kang quickly makes up an excuse. He says it's simply a Western folk melody and claims that he once saw on YouTube that humming can help calm animals. For a druid, humming is actually a technique. Although it appears to be ordinary singing, the The real purpose is to synchronize your breathing with the rhythm of nature. It's something that cannot simply be taught to someone like an ordinary lesson. Jiang says he doesn't think it has anything to do with technique. Animals simply seem to love Kang. He reminds them that they should have seen how Beck behaved the other day. The veterinarian immediately asks if he's talking about the famous Beck. Jiang confirms it and explains that animals seem to become calm whenever they're around Kang. The veterinarian takes a slow breath and admits that he's met someone with a similar ability before. There was someone animals naturally followed without any obvious reason. One of his college professors had possessed that same strange ability, and he had been an outstanding veterinarian. The veterinarian explains that abilities like that are unique. No matter how much someone practices, they can't simply copy them. He admits that this is the first time he's ever felt genuinely jealous of someone else's talent. Jiang suggests that the two of them become friends and help one another whenever necessary. The veterinarian immediately likes the idea. He says he's 29 and asks Kang how old he is. Kang answers that he's 1 year younger. The veterinarian then asks whether he can contact Kang whenever another situation like today's comes up. He explains that dogs and cats are manageable, but dealing with larger animals such as cattle and horses can be extremely difficult. Kang agrees to help, but makes it clear that he won't do it for free. The veterinarian says he'll cover his travel expenses and anything else he needs. Kang shakes his head and says that's not the kind of payment he wants. A simple thank you would be enough, or even something as ordinary as a bag of sweet potatoes. The veterinarian thinks Kang is a strange guy. He tells Kang that his answer is rather vague, but for some reason, he likes it. He says he's looking forward to working with him. Kang asks him to stop speaking so formally. He points out that he and Hugh are neighbors, so talking to each other this stiffly feels unnecessary. Jiang quietly sips his coffee while listening to the two men. A world without magic. And yet, even in such a world, there were people who dedicated themselves to caring for living things. In a way, they were another kind of druid, connected by the same desire to protect life. Kang gives a quiet smile as he thinks about his new connection. A few days later, Kang is recording another daily vlog. He asks his viewers whether they enjoy listening to the sound of rain as ASMR. Because the monsoon has lasted so long, Kang has been struggling to take care of his garden and has even taken a short break from making videos. But the rain looks especially beautiful today, so he decides to record it. Since Kang's uploads have become less frequent, Seo has already scolded him and told him to be more consistent, saying he should upload something, anything. Seo also mentions that the members of Tracker are planning to visit soon. Kang doesn't know exactly when they'll arrive, but he already knows the peaceful atmosphere won't last once they do. While filming, Kang explains that if you listen carefully, rain doesn't sound exactly the same everywhere. Depending on the surroundings, each location produces a slightly different sound. To him, it feels like a melody created naturally by the world itself. Kang steps inside the plastic greenhouse and asks his viewers whether they enjoy the sound. Then he suddenly senses something strange. He looks toward the far end of the greenhouse and wonders what could be there. He says he feels something unusual coming from that corner. One of Kang's cats suddenly jumps down from a stack of boxes. Kang looks at it and wonders what it had been doing over there. Then he hears unfamiliar meowing coming from the back. It isn't the sound of his own cats. Kang slowly approaches the noise. To his surprise, he discovers a filthy mother cat along with 3 tiny kittens. He wonders how the cats managed to get inside the greenhouse on a rainy night like this. At the Love Meow veterinary clinic, Kang waits for his turn, sitting beside the cats as he watches over them. It's okay, little ones. The doctor will see you soon. Inside the plastic greenhouse, Kang had discovered a mother cat and her kittens. The mother was trembling and struggling to breathe properly, so Kang immediately took her to the veterinarian. Before finding out what had happened, Kang quietly used the resonance spell. Through the resonance, he saw the mother cat drenched from the rain, struggling down the mountain while carrying her kittens. The cave where they had been living had collapsed after several days of heavy rain. With nowhere else to go, they had found shelter inside Kang's greenhouse, attracted by the abundant natural energy there. Kang understood the situation immediately. The mother had fought desperately to keep her babies safe. Just then, Hugh recognizes him and calls Kang's name. Kang looks over and asks if it's really Hugh. Hugh had noticed the familiar name written on the intake form and wondered whether it could actually be Kang. He never expected to run into him there. Kang asks if this is Hugh's clinic. Hugh confirms it, though he jokes that the place is too small to properly call a clinic. He then asks what happened to the cats. Kang explains that he found all 4 of them trembling in his backyard. They had been caught outside in the rain and seemed to have developed colds, so he brought them in. Hugh picks up the mother cat and begins examining her. He says her nose is running, and there's some discharge around her eyes, but nothing appears serious. Her fever has also dropped, and she should recover as long as she eats properly. Kang lets out a relieved sigh. The veterinarian reminds him that being healthy doesn't automatically mean they should be released back outside. Vaccinations and getting the mother spayed and the kittens neutered would be good options, but only if Kang actually wants to do it. Kang thanks him, saying he can finally stop worrying. Hugh tells him it's simply his job, then asks if Kang could help him with something for a moment. Kang asks what he needs help with. He gets up and follows Hugh. Kang asks what this room is. Hugh explains that it's an area for animals requiring intensive treatment and care. He leads Kang toward another cat. Kang notices the feeding tube and asks if she's being fed through it. Hugh confirms it, explaining that she refuses to eat, so they've been giving her liquid food through the tube. Kang asks what happened to her. Hugh explains that the cat first arrived with jaundice. Her eyes and gums had turned yellow, and her liver values were extremely poor. After examinations and IV fluids, her medical expenses had already reached around 600,000 won. Because her condition was so serious, she needed to stay hospitalized. After several more days, the accumulated costs reached millions of won. Then her owner simply disappeared. Hugh says that if the owner had honestly admitted that money was the problem, they could have tried to work something out. But right around then, the cat stopped eating completely. No matter how tempting the food was, she wouldn't touch it. She would simply curl herself up and stay there. Hugh says that animals may not be able to speak, but they still understand things. She knows that her owner abandoned her. Kang asks whether Hugh has been taking care of her himself, and whether there is no insurance covering her medicine and liquid diet. The veterinarian says Kang has understood the situation perfectly. He wonders what else he could have done. He knows he can save her, so he can't simply turn away and pretend he didn't see her. I'm a veterinarian. I have a responsibility to do my job. He then explains that he needs to replace her feeding tube, but she keeps fighting whenever he tries. He asks Kang to calm her down the way he did with the cattle. Hugh approaches the cage and says he'll examine her first. The cat tries to push him away, but Kang gently tells her there's nothing to fear. He reaches out his hand and softly pets her. The cat immediately becomes attached to Kang. Hugh feels both relieved and saddened when she quickly presses her cheek against Kang's hand. Whenever Hugh tries to handle her, she always scratches him. Kang thinks that cats are naturally cautious creatures, but no animal could truly reject a druid's touch. Hugh asks Kang to hold her still while he replaces the feeding tube. Kang tells him to wait a moment and suggests trying a treat first. The veterinarian holds the treat out. He warns Kang that she hasn't eaten anything and could even bite him. Kang tells him to try anyway. The cat watches Hugh nervously, but Kang gives her a reassuring signal, showing her that it's safe. Hugh slowly moves closer and offers her the treat. To everyone's surprise, the cat begins eating. Hugh stares in disbelief and asks how that could possibly happen. Kang says that she must have realized Hugh is a good person, meaning she no longer needs the feeding tube. Hugh is deeply relieved. He wonders why she refused to eat until now and encourages her to keep eating so she can finally leave the clinic. Only then does Kang notice something else. Hugh's hands are covered with countless scars, marks left behind by all the effort he had put into saving that cat. Kang senses the gentle connection between Hugh and the animal. There were no medicines or injections involved this time. It was simply something created by a genuinely caring heart. The cat is eventually adopted by Hugh. Perhaps kindness really is the strongest medicine of all. The following day, inside Tracker's waiting room, Seo's friend is listening to Kang's Rain ASMR. He comments on how relaxing it sounds. Another member points out that he's the only person listening to something like that during their busiest season. The friend says he doesn't really understand the appeal. Seo says he could have sworn Kang had already run out of things to film. His friend responds that the viewers clearly don't mind, since the comments are still full of people enjoying the videos. Diet, animals, and now even ASMR. He laughs and says Kang's whole channel is basically about healing in the countryside. The manager calls out that their next appointment is about to begin. Everyone starts leaving the dressing room, but Seo notices that one member is still sitting there. He tells him to wake up because they need to go. There is no response. Seo looks at him properly and suddenly becomes concerned, asking whether he's okay. The other members gather around to check on him. They realize he's burning with a fever. One of them suggests taking him to the hospital. Jerome says he'll rest afterward and insists it's only a cold. He'll be fine once he takes some medicine. Seo tells him not to worry about the schedule and says that if his fever doesn't come down, he'll have to be hospitalized. Seo's friend tells Jerome not to push himself because he could make his condition worse. He hands Jerome some fever medicine and asks why he always ends up catching colds, saying he spends nearly half the year sick. Jerome tells him to stop nagging. Seo points out that since Jerome is this sick, he won't be able to join them on the countryside trip. Jerome immediately refuses, saying he's definitely going. It's their group's own content, so how could they possibly film it without him? One member asks whether he's actually well enough to appear on camera looking like that. He jokes that Jerome is unbelievably handsome when he's healthy, but when he's sick, he looks like an entirely different person. Jerome threatens to hit him for saying that. The member tells him to simply stop getting sick then. Jerome insists that he isn't sick at all. The others burst out laughing. The next day, at the traditional Jeong market, Seo asks Kang whether he rescued some stray kittens. Kang confirms it and explains that he left the mother cat at the veterinarian so she could be spayed. For now, he's taking care of the kittens at home. Seo says that explains why Kang bought so many toys. He adds that raising them properly will eventually help them catch mice and bugs. Kang says that isn't why he's raising them. He mentions that he was thinking about visiting the nursery and recalls Hugh saying that cats like perilla leaves. Seo immediately corrects him. He tells Kang that what cats like is catnip, not perilla leaves, and jokes that Kang might actually be more troublesome than the kittens. Since they're already on the same street, Seo suggests stopping at the handmade tofu shop too. He wants to buy some soybean broth to make kunguksu. Kang follows behind him. He feels embarrassed about confusing perilla leaves with catnip and wishes he could disappear into a hole right then. A little later, they arrive at the handmade tofu shop. Kang speaks with the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper asks whether he wants his usual order. Kang says he'll take 3 blocks of tofu and 2 bottles of soybean broth. The owner suddenly begins acting strangely and coughs awkwardly. Kang wonders why he's behaving that way. Something feels very wrong. Slowly, Kang looks behind him. Wait, why does that man give off such a suspicious feeling? The stranger notices Kang watching him. He pulls his cap lower over his face and quickly leaves the shop. The shopkeeper thanks him and tells him to come back anytime. Jia asks what's going on and who the man was. The shopkeeper, visibly trembling, explains that the man is a criminal. He used to be a gangster in Seoul, served time in prison, and eventually moved out to the countryside. Jio hopes nothing bad happens in their town. Kang continues staring at the doorway. A criminal. Outside, the man walks through the streets, making everyone around him feel uneasy. Hyung turns his head as the people around him continue with their own business. Then he hears someone mention a criminal. His eyes widen slightly, and he holds his chin as he thinks about it. On the busy market street, people move through the walkway while a hooded stranger walks among them. He keeps his head lowered, hiding most of his face beneath his hood and cap. Hyung watches him closely. The stranger adjusts his cap, briefly revealing his tired-looking eyes. He clicks his tongue quietly and lowers the cap again. That evening, Hyung sits outside the wooden doors of the house beneath the colorful sunset. He holds a thin branch while a small cat reaches toward the leaves at the end of it. The thought of a criminal brings back an old memory. Long ago, a young Theophilo visited a prison with his teacher once every month. They walked through a dark passage carrying lanterns, while several prisoners could be seen nearby. Their job was to reform and cleanse criminals, even though no one welcomed them. Theophilo simply followed his teacher without complaint. That day, Theophilo carried the ritual branch toward the reformation room. He stops near the entrance and looks inside with wide green eyes. The dark room is lit by only a few torches. Several people stand around a prisoner who is tightly bound to a chair. His clothes are dirty, torn, and stained. Foul presence comes from the prisoner, and the smell from his filthy clothes and untreated wounds fills the room. The man keeps his head lowered while thick ropes hold him tightly against the chair. He is a priest from a fallen tribe who was arrested for cannibalism and demon worship. Theophilo's teacher begins the purification ritual. He presses his hands together in prayer as green light gathers around him. Theophilo stands nearby with the branch in his hands, carefully watching. Just as he is about to sweep the branch over the prisoner, the man suddenly lifts his head. Theophilo freezes. "You look delicious." The prisoner's face twists into a frightening expression. His eyes glow red as he opens his mouth and reaches toward Theophilo. Theophilo tenses as the prisoner suddenly lunges forward. In an instant, the prisoner bites down on Theophilo's wrist. Later, the wound has healed, but a clear scar remains on his wrist. Rumors spread among the other druids that the mark came from a demon's bite, making things difficult for Theophilo afterward. Back in the present, Hyung touches his own wrist as he remembers what happened. He still gets goosebumps whenever he thinks about that man. He can still clearly remember the evil energy coming from him. But Hyung thinks about the hooded stranger he recently saw. He remembers meeting the man at the tofu shop and feels that there was something different about him. The stranger's vibe was slightly similar to that of a criminal, but Hyung did not feel the same dark energy coming from him. That leaves Hyung wondering whether he is simply imagining things. He reaches down and pets one of the cats beside him. The white and orange cat closes its eyes as he strokes its head. Soon more cats gather around Hyung while he sits quietly on the wooden floor. Then his phone rings. Hyung picks it up. "Hello, Hyung, it's me, Siwoo." Siwoo asks what Hyung is doing at this hour. He explains that the members and staff are going to Hyung's place that weekend to shoot their own content, so he asks Hyung to prepare a few extra sets of bedding for everyone. Hyung smiles and tells him not to worry. He will have everything ready. Siwoo sounds relieved and says they will head down that weekend as planned. Hyung wishes them a safe trip. Oh, and Hyung. Yeah, Siwoo asks whether Hyung can do one quick favor. Siwoo looks flustered and red-faced while someone stands partly beside him. Later, 5 members of the idol group Tracker perform on a brightly lit stage in front of a huge crowd. The members stand together beneath blue lights while thousands of fans raise their hands toward them. Hisu, the main vocalist, appears on the giant screen as he sings into the microphone with a smile. Jerome, the group's main dancer, performs with a bright smile while confetti falls around him. Leo, the rapper and leader, performs with the others while striking a pose. Kay, the sub-vocalist, stands with the group as the performance continues. Then Siwoo appears holding a microphone. He is Tracker's center and lead vocalist. Siwoo raises one arm and smiles as the concert comes to an end. "Thank you, we are Tracker." Tracker is one of the most famous idol groups, loved by fans around the world. They have even reached #1 on the global charts. Their concerts sell out, setting new records. Their new album, Heartwind, is also selling extremely well. A television screen shows Tracker while people nearby watch the news. A young man eats while talking about the news involving manager Hyung. He looks toward the screen and comments that they look really good on camera. Outside, people gather around the building as Tracker's popularity draws more attention. Several fans point towards something nearby and urge the others to look. Just one more time. The crowd pushes forward and 2 people near the entrance struggle to keep their balance as they try to get another look. Just one more try. More people continue gathering. One of the members warns Leo. "Leo, how many times have I told you? You're going to gamble yourself into ruin. Please, just one last time." Leo pleads with him. Siwoo covers his face in frustration. Who was the genius that handed Leo money in the first place? Then Siwoo looks around. By the way, where's Jerome? He is told that Jerome went to the convenience store to buy some water. The convenience store. Siwoo turns to look in that direction. A crowd has gathered nearby and several people stare at someone walking through the middle of them. Whoa, who's this? Is he a celebrity? A blonde young man walks through the crowd as people turn to watch him. It's Jerome. One fan suddenly recognizes him. "Your Tracker's Jerome, right? Please give me an autograph." Jerome awkwardly raises his hands as more people surround him. The crowd keeps getting closer and someone reaches toward him. A hand suddenly grabs Jerome's hand. Jerome gets pulled forward as he struggles to make his way through the crowd. Sorry, I'll just pass by." He tries to get through while Siwoo runs toward him. The people around them watch as the commotion grows. Siwoo turns angrily toward Jerome. "You idiot, everyone recognizes you. At least you should have worn a mask." Jerome looks embarrassed. "Sorry, I was still half asleep and forgot." Siwoo immediately turns toward the manager. "Manager, let's go, let's go." The black vehicle pulls away from the building as the fans raise their hands and wave after them. "Thank you, please listen to Tracker's songs." Inside the vehicle, Siwoo sits quietly. "I wonder if this is really going to be okay." He then says that he hopes they do not end up causing chaos in front of his brother too. Siwoo looks out at the road as the scenery changes to mountains, forests, and a winding road. Still, we're almost there. A green road sign appears ahead, showing that Gayang County is 30 kilometers away. The vehicle continues down the road. Siwoo sits quietly, looking ahead as the surroundings become more peaceful and they move farther away from the city. Back at home, Hyung lies face down on a narrow mat and continues his training while a cat rests nearby. 25, 26. He keeps going. 27. He continues pushing himself. 28, 29. Hyung breathes heavily as sweat runs down his face. He keeps enduring the pain because it is helping make his body whole again. For Hyung, even this kind of pain is something worth accepting for the sake of good health. Outside, the green leaves move gently in the breeze as natural energy flows through the trees. As less natural energy escapes, Hyung is able to gather more of it. And as that natural energy becomes stronger, he can use more druid spells as well. Hyung sits quietly on the wooden floor with his eyes closed while green light gathers around him. The natural energy fills the room and surrounds his body. Hyung continues to breathe calmly as the green light flows around him. Green natural energy moves through the area while a cat rests quietly nearby. Hyung looks toward the peaceful sight, and it feels like something worth being grateful for. A moment later, he realizes the animals have gathered around him. A little white bird flaps nearby while several cats sit around him. Hyung looks at them in surprise. "When did you all get here?" He checks the time and notices that it is already almost 9. Since the others should be arriving soon, Hyung dries his hair and gets ready. He waits by the gate until he hears them approaching. Then he opens it with a smile. Welcome. Standing outside are the 5 members of Tracker with their luggage. Siwoo is among them along with the other members, and they all look toward Hyung. They greet him and introduce themselves as Tracker, telling him it is a pleasure to meet him. Hyung smiles and welcomes them. One of the members replies that it is nice to meet him too, and even greets him with the group's slogan. Hyung notices the members reacting warmly to him and wonders if they always greet people like this because of their team slogan. Siwoo steps closer and asks, "Have you been doing well, Hyung?" Hyung answers that he has. Siwoo then asks whether the trip was too rough. Hyung says it was fine, but Siwoo complains that the others completely drained his energy before they even left. Hyung laughs and asks, "Haha, really?" One of the other members suddenly looks at Hyung and then glances between Hyung and Siwoo. He notices that Hyung looks a little different from Siwoo, but there is still some resemblance. He hesitantly speaks up. "Excuse me." Hyung turns toward him. "Yes." The member asks whether there is something on his face. Hyung quickly says no, and the member explains that it is just amazing seeing Dr. Vly in person. Hyung is caught a little off guard and thinks that maybe he should be the one amazed because he is looking at celebrities. The staff member then steps forward and introduces himself. "Hello, I'm Kim Hanbyul, one of the filming staff." He shakes Hyung's hand and thanks him for allowing them to film there. Hyung tells him it is no problem and says that as long as they do not inconvenience the village, they can feel free to film as much as they like. Hanbyul is clearly happy with the answer and thanks him again. He then asks whether it would be alright to start filming now. Hyung agrees right away. "Of course, come inside first." He tells them that they should unpack their luggage too. Members begin moving into the house with their bags. This is where Tracker's countryside experience begins. Away from their busy schedules, the members finally get to walk through the wide open nature around them. They spend time exploring the countryside and enjoying the fresh surroundings they normally never have time to experience. They also get to spend time with the warm and gentle animals around Hyung's home. One of the cats approaches them, and the members play with it while another member laughs as a cat rubs against him. The peaceful environment starts helping them relax, and the time spent with the animals gives them a chance to rest their tired bodies and minds. Before long, even their expressions look much more relaxed. The members continue enjoying the countryside together, and the day passes much faster than they expected. As the sun begins to set, warm light spreads over the house and smiles can be seen on everyone's faces. Hyung looks around and decides that it is probably time to start preparing dinner. He walks over and notices a shopping bag that the members seem to have left outside. He looks at the bag and thinks that they were probably so busy filming that they did not even unpack properly. Since bugs could get inside, he decides to bring it indoors. As he picks it up, he notices a note attached to the bag. Hyung looks at it and pauses. The note, he starts reading. "Hyung, I don't wear these clothes anymore. I thought they'd suit you, so I brought them." Hyung opens the bag and finds a neatly packed set of clothes inside. He looks at them in surprise, clearly not expecting the gift. Then he notices that the clothes are not simply something someone stopped using. They were brought because someone thought they would suit him. Siwoo stands nearby with a smile while Hyung looks down at the gift. Hyung realizes that these clothes were chosen especially for him, and the thought catches him off guard. He has spent so much of his life caring for countless lives as a druid, but being the one cared for by someone else still feels unfamiliar to him. Even so, that unfamiliar feeling is not something he dislikes. The next moment, Hyung shows the clothes to everyone and happily says, "Guys, look at this. My little brother bought it for me." One of the members smiles while looking at the gift, and Hyung is clearly happy as he holds it up. Shion looks on with a bright smile, and he cannot hide how pleased he is with the moment. The members continue filming and enjoying their time together until the day finally comes to an end. From outside, the filming wraps up with someone calling out, "All right, that wraps up today's Content by Crackers. The house is shown at night as the day's work comes to a close. Then, someone calls cut. One of the members looks completely exhausted after the filming, while another says, "Great work, everyone." The group rests after the long day, and one of them immediately admits that he is starving. Another member complains that someone completely drained his energy earlier that day. The tired member quickly apologizes. I said I was sorry." He sits there looking pale and worn out, breathing heavily. He admits that he barely managed to get through the day and says that this is really his limit. With tomorrow's filming still ahead, he starts worrying about how he is supposed to get through another day like this. Another member notices how bad he looks and calls out to him, "Jerome." Jerome looks up as they ask whether he is okay, because he really does not look well. Jerome quickly tries to reassure them. "I'm fine, really. I'm okay," but his body still looks weak, and he can barely hide how tired he is. Outside, too, members talk about Jerome. One asks whether he has been feeling especially unwell lately. The other says that maybe Jerome simply has not been sleeping well. Hyung hears them and comes out to see what is wrong. "Is there something wrong?" Siu calls out to him. Hyung, he explains that Jerome is really not feeling well. Jerome has always been physically weak, but today he seems much worse than usual. Hyung listens carefully and looks toward Jerome. "I see," he studies Jerome for a moment, then decides to check him himself. "Let me take a look." Hyung focuses on Jerome and uses his senses to examine him. Green energy starts surrounding Jerome as Hyung looks closely at his condition. Then Hyung notices something strange. His natural energy is this low. Jerome's natural energy is far lower than Hyung expected, and the sight clearly catches him off guard. Hyung realizes that this is not something he normally sees. He thinks to himself that he never expected to meet someone like this here too. Siwoo then remembers the favor he had asked Hyung about earlier. He approaches Hyung and speaks nervously. Hyung, about what?" "I asked you before, could you do it now?" Hyung looks at him and asks, "You mean that?" Siwoo confirms it and Hyung smiles. "Got it, I'll be right back." Siwoo immediately thanks him. "Thanks." Hyung walks away, his footsteps fading into the night. After a short while, he returns carrying a tray. "Sorry to keep you waiting." He stands in front of Jerome with a warm smile and holds out a cup. "Here you go." Jerome looks toward the steaming drink with a confused expression. Hyung asks, "Would you like to drink this?" Jerome looks at the cup, unsure what he is being given. Steam rises from the drink as Hyung continues holding it out to him. Jerome slowly looks up and his eyes widen. "This is..." He stares at the warm drink in surprise. His face changes as he realizes what it is: herbal tea. Jerome holds the warm cup in both hands and stares at it for a moment. Herbal tea. He takes a sip, still unsure what to expect. Wait, is it just normal herbal tea? He looks down at the cup and thinks about how bad he feels for Siwoo's brother, but he does not expect something this simple to make any difference. Then he takes another drink and his whole expression changes. What is this? The taste surprises him. The tea is incredibly sweet, almost as sweet as honey. Hyung watches him closely and asks, "How is it?" Jerome looks toward him and asks whether it is to his liking. Hyung smiles and waits for his answer. Jerome is stunned. "I've never had such delicious herbal tea before. How does it taste?" "Like this?" Siwoo looks confused. What do you mean? It's just normal herbal tea." He looks at the cup and adds that he wants to try some too. Siwoo takes a sip for himself and notices the taste as well. Hyung explains that the taste of the tea changes depending on the person's condition. Siwoo and the others look at him in surprise. "That's so strange." Jerome keeps drinking. A moment later, he notices an even bigger change. His headache is completely gone, and his eyes feel much clearer than before. He touches his face in surprise, then checks how he feels. Someone asks, "Jerome, are you feeling okay? Do you want to go inside and sleep?" Jerome looks energetic instead. "I feel so energized right now. I could do another shoot." The others stare at him. One of them cannot believe what he is seeing. Jerome is in such good shape that it looks like he has never even needed a good night's sleep to feel this well. Someone points out that Jerome did not even take his headache medicine that day. That immediately makes them wonder whether the herbal tea is the reason. Hyung quietly watches them as everyone starts connecting the two things. What? The group reacts with surprise. One of the staff members quickly asks Hyung where they can get that tea. Hyung looks at him and says that he grew it himself, so it is not for sale. The staff member looks disappointed and asks whether Hyung would consider selling some to them. He even offers to pay whatever price Hyung wants. Hyung looks at the tea and remembers how carefully he made it. Things made by a druid can be either poison or medicine. In ancient Britannia, people did not simply buy or sell things like that without knowing what they were dealing with. Only certain tribes and druids could properly judge them, and even in modern times there could still be people who trick others by selling harmful things. Hyung looks at the manager and notices how deeply he cares about Tracker and especially Jerome. After seeing that concern, Hyung decides to help. All right, I'll prepare some more by tomorrow. The manager is delighted. Really, thank you so much. He is genuinely excited by the offer. He explains that they have always been concerned because Jerome has had a weak constitution ever since joining the agency. Seeing him look energetic for the first time in a long while makes the manager emotional. Hyung looks at him quietly, then nods. The manager thanks him again, while the others look happy about Jerome finally feeling better. Hyung tells them he will have more ready by the next day. The members relax as the evening continues. By now it is already getting late. One of them suggests that they continue the rest tomorrow. Hyung agrees. Yes, let's do that. The first night in the countryside slowly comes to an end as the house grows quiet. Outside, insects chirp around the peaceful home, while the lights inside remain warm and bright. Morning soon arrives. One of the members wakes up and rubs his eyes. He looks around as if he is surprised by how deeply he slept. Is it morning already? Usually, even the slightest noise would wake him up, so sleeping this deeply feels unusual. He gets up and looks outside. Hyung is already awake and busy working in the garden. He bends a plant carefully near the root and snaps it off cleanly. If you gently bend it near the root like this and snap it off, the member watches him from a distance and wonders whether they have already started filming. He realizes that he may have overslept. Soon, the others begin moving around as well. Someone asks, "Did you sleep well?" Another member looks toward the garden. Hyung continues working with the plants, while Siwoo and the others gather nearby. Siwoo calls out to Hyung and explains that someone woke up feeling much better than expected. The member himself admits that he was surprised too, because he had not expected to sleep so soundly. He wonders whether it is because of the herbal tea Siwoo's brother gave him the previous day. Siwoo explains that this is actually why he came over. He holds out another warm cup and says that he made it early that morning and was told to give it to him. Drink it while it's hot. The tea is still steaming. Jerome looks at the cup and smiles. Really, he says he needs to properly thank Hyung later. Hyung carries a large bowl of fresh vegetables through the yard and looks toward them. He is relieved to see that the tea seems to be working well. As he watches Jerome looking much healthier, an old memory comes back to him. Jerome reminds Hyung of a child he met long ago during his days as a druid. Jerome seems to live by burning through his own life force because he was born with a severe lack of natural energy. That condition is what causes his weakness. In the past, Hyung once met another child who suffered from the same problem. Seeing that child reminds him of Jerome. The child came from a long-living tribe Hyung had met when he was still a druid. The child suffered from the same symptoms as Jerome, and the people around him had already tried everything they could. Hyung's teacher had warned the parents that even a fortune could not save their child. They had tried every way they knew, but they could not cure the lack of natural force. Back then, all Hyung could do was channel a little natural energy into the child at a time. He could only give enough to ease the pain, even if it was only a little. Hyung stayed beside the child as the child slowly grew weaker. In the end, the child closed his eyes forever. Even after that, Hyung remained by the child's side until the very end. The memory leaves a heavy feeling in his mind, but he looks around at the countryside and remembers that this time is Different, unlike the barren lands of Britannia, the mountains and fields of this world are overflowing with natural energy. The land is rich with plants and herbs filled with the power he once lacked. Hyung sits down with his ingredients and looks at the plants around him. This time is different. I have more than enough power to use here. He begins preparing another special tea for Jerome. He takes fragrant lemongrass and starts cutting it carefully so he can bring out as much of its smell as possible. Then he takes the ginseng roots, dries them, and prepares them with the other herbs. He mixes the ingredients together with care, blending them into the herbal tea he wants. Green natural energy gathers around Hyung as he works. The plants respond to his power, and the tea begins to glow with the energy he puts into it. Hyung continues until everything is ready. A special blend crafted specifically for Jerome. He looks at the finished cup and smiles. Great, it's finished. Elsewhere, Jerome continues enjoying the countryside. He looks healthier than before, and his face is brighter as he sits outside with the tea. Small white bird comes close to him. Jerome gently looks toward it. The bird stays near him and he smiles. Around the house, the others are also enjoying the fresh air and peaceful surroundings. One of them points out how amazing Jerome looks today and says it must be because of the fresh country air. Another corrects the word and calls it fight inside. Jerome continues sitting comfortably as the small bird moves closer. He greets it softly. Hello there. The others suddenly notice the scene and react with surprise. Whoa. They gather around Jerome and the bird. Someone quickly calls out, hey, hey. Hey, don't move. Let me take a picture. Jerome stays still while the bird remains near him. The person taking the picture says that Jerome is absolutely glowing today. From another spot, someone wonders where he learned to talk like that. The group then gets called over because it is time for the live stream. Guys, stop messing around and get over here for the live stream. One of them answers, oh, right. We're coming. The camera starts recording and Tracker greets their fans. Hello, Cracker. They check whether everyone can see them properly. One of the members holds up a phone and explains that they are actually there for their album cover shoot. Another member appears with a tomato and asks where they are. He explains that they are in the countryside, and for once he is even eating tomatoes, but these are not ordinary tomatoes. They are special tomatoes grown by Siwoo's older brother, and they are incredibly delicious. He happily eats another one and says it is a shame their Cracker cannot taste them. The others joke around while the live stream continues. Hisu gets teased for trying too hard with his fancy words, and someone tells him to stop because he is making them look stingy. Siwoo laughs and tells the fans to ignore the two idiots while holding the camera. Anyway, let's ignore those two idiots. He then turns the camera towards something else, and so look at something amazing. Cracker. Someone asks what it is. Siwoo smiles and says that it is something worth seeing. The camera moves toward Jerome, who now looks much healthier and more refreshed than before. Jerome sits there in his better condition, and Siwoo proudly shows him off. Jerome smiles at the camera. Cracker, how do I look today? Siwoo proudly presents him as Jerome, fully rested and refreshed. The live chat quickly fills with messages praising Jerome's looks. Fans comment that Jerome's peak visuals are back, that he looks incredible, and that his old dark circles are gone. Someone says he is back to his legendary visual state. The fans continue reacting excitedly. Siwoo tells them that since they all love seeing him like this, Jerome will keep working hard to stay healthy. The members agree that the best way is simple: eat well and sleep well. The group continues chatting when one of them suddenly notices something else. What's wrong, Hisu? He tells the others to look over. There, a view of Hyung appears in the garden. He is quietly tending to the plants while a white bird flies nearby. Another member points toward him and says they should just watch. The white bird circles through the air and then flies closer to Hyung. It moves directly toward him and lands near him. Hyung reacts in surprise when the bird comes close. A moment later, it settles near his shoulder while Hyung calmly lifts a hand. One of the members is amazed. That is so cool. He says that he has only ever seen birds land on someone's shoulder on television. Another member laughs and says that is exactly what you would expect from their druid. Someone else points out that the man in the garden is actually Siwoo's older brother. The others watch as Hyung calmly handles the bird. They explain to the live audience that Hyung even helped them with their self-produced content shoot. Siwoo then jokes with the viewers and says that anyone who wants a spoiler should wait because the content will be uploaded. Soon, one of the members looks confused for a moment. But before they can say anything else, a small animal suddenly appears in the yard. An orange-brown deer with a pink scarf around its neck walks into view. One member notices it and turns in surprise. He looks at the animal as if he cannot believe what he is seeing. The deer stares back at them. Water deer, someone immediately recognizes it. Oh, it's Bangle from the video. Another member looks around in confusion. What Bangle? Where? The others gather around the deer and react to how cute it is. One of them excitedly says, "So cute, I want to pet it too." The deer looks nervous as more people start moving closer. Bangle suddenly becomes startled and tries to run away. The members react at the same time and rush after it. One person shouts while another reaches out. The sudden movement sends everyone into chaos. Someone stumbles as the deer runs past them, and another member nearly falls over trying to follow it. The deer dashes across the yard while people chase after it. Someone ends up on the ground groaning, "Us," while another member grabs his head and shouts in panic. Bangle stops for a moment and looks back at the group. The deer stands proudly with its pink scarf while everyone else remains scattered around the yard. What started as a quiet live stream quickly turns into total chaos because of Bangle's sudden appearance. Bangle suddenly throws his head back and lets out a loud "ow." The cry makes everyone freeze, and another loud howl comes right after it. Shion looks uncomfortable and covers the side of his head. As the sound continues, he looks toward Hyung and calls out, Shion." Hyung quickly turns around and asks, "Is everyone okay?" Bangle is still standing nearby while the others watch from a short distance. Hyung kneels down and gently pets Bangle, trying to calm him. He tells him that he must have been startled because so many strangers suddenly gathered around him. The others admit that they did not expect Bangle to come out like that and that the sudden appearance scared him. One of them apologizes and says he got too excited when Bangle came out. Bangle lets out another "ow" and looks toward them. One of the members quickly says they are sorry and explains that they did not mean to scare him. Bangle keeps staring at everyone while Hyung stays beside him. The group starts slowly moving closer again, and someone says that maybe they gathered around him too suddenly. Bangle watches them carefully. One person reaches a hand out toward him and waits. Bangle leans closer, sniffing the hand before allowing it to come near. Someone quietly reacts, "Oh," as Bangle finally relaxes. Another member slowly strokes him and watches his reaction. Bangle moves closer and sits beside him. A moment later, the member crouches down with Bangle and happily pets him. "Oh," he says as Bangle stays calm. The tension quickly disappears and the others begin smiling again. One of them laughs when Bangle moves closer and says, "Bangle, that tickles." Everyone relaxes after the scare. One of the men takes a deep breath and says, "Phew, I thought my heart was going to drop." He laughs and talks about how powerful a water deer can be. The group looks at Bangle again, now much more comfortable around him. Someone else rubs his stomach and says that the scare made him hungry. Then he realizes it is already time for dinner. Hyung looks toward the others and tells them, "You all worked so hard. I have prepared dinner, so let's eat together." The members immediately brighten up at the mention of food. "Whoa," they react as Hyung leads them inside. They stop in surprise when they see the dinner table. Plates are arranged neatly across the long table, filled with many different dishes. The meal is full of food prepared from fresh ingredients. The members take their seats and look over everything in front of them. One of them smiles and says, "Thank you for the food." Hyung quietly smiles as everyone begins eating. Being in a house so full of warmth feels unfamiliar to Shion, but the feeling makes his lips curl into a small smile. The dinner has been prepared with hand-picked ingredients, and the members quickly begin enjoying it. They eat while talking and Laughing and the relaxed mood inside Hyung's home continues. The members also continue working on their self-produced content between meals, filming and preparing material for their fans. Their voices and laughter fill the house as they spend their remaining time together. The day slowly passes and the light outside turns warm. The sound of laughter continues through Hyung's house until the evening finally comes to an end. The final day of Tracker's countryside experience comes to an end. The next morning arrives and a bird flies across the bright sky above the house. Outside, one of the members struggles with his luggage as he gets ready to leave. He looks back and says that they only have one last bag to load. Hyung is already outside, and one of the members comments that he is busy so early. In the morning, Hyung looks toward them and smiles. He explains that he came out to give them something before they leave. He carries a paper bag in one hand and a small container in the other. The members look curious as Hyung holds them out. One of them points out that Hyung is the one who worked hard helping them film for the past 2 days. Hyung smiles and says that he has something for them to take with them. He opens the bag and shows them several things he prepared. What is this? Someone asks as they look closer. Inside is a small container filled with herbs and flowers. Hyung explains that it is tea made from herbs and that it is designed so they can brew the herbal tea right away. He says that one is for Jerome and that he also prepared some for the other members to take with them. Jerome's eyes brighten when he hears that the tea is meant specifically for him. Wow. Really? He says happily. Hyung tells them that the tea can help when they have indigestion, when they are tired, or when they cannot sleep. The members look into the bag again and realize that Hyung has prepared a lot for them. He gave us so much, one of them says while pulling more things from the bag. Siwoo sits nearby and watches while the others react with surprise. Hyung looks at the members leaving and thinks about how hard Siwoo worked from such a young age to become an idol. He also thinks that the other members must have worked just as hard in their own places. Looking at Tracker, Hyung feels that they are starting to seem like his own younger siblings, and because of that, he keeps wanting to look after them. Then someone calls out, "Everyone, we need to leave soon." The members turn back toward the vehicle. Ah, yes. They begin moving toward the car and loading the last of their bags. Siwoo looks back toward Hyung and waves. "Take care, Shion." He raises his hand high and smiles while saying, "I will come back next time." The vehicle starts moving away, leaving Hyung standing by the house and watching them go. The tires roll across the road until the car disappears into the distance. Inside the vehicle, the members open the bags Hyung gave them and look through everything he prepared. One of them says that Hyung gave them so much, including things for digestion, tiredness, and sleepless nights. Siwoo looks down at one of the gifts and notices an envelope. A letter. He picks it up and opens it. Inside, the letter tells him to always stay healthy and well, and says that whenever he has a hard time, he can lean on Hyung. At the end, there is a small message wishing him a great world tour and saying that Hyung is always cheering for him. Siwoo sits quietly in the vehicle while reading the letter. He looks down at it for a moment, then smiles to himself. Seriously, he keeps looking at the message in his hands and smiles. That is so like him. The vehicle continues down the road while the countryside slowly disappears behind them. A few days later, another change takes place. Hyung is back among the plants around his home, and a cluster of grapes hangs from a vine. The grapes are full and ready to harvest. Hyung looks at them and smiles. Wow, they are perfectly ripe. The grapes are so plump. He looks over the fruit carefully. Nearby, a large oak barrel is shown, and that the oak barrels were recently imported and cleared through customs. With the grapes now ripe, Hyung has what he needs to make the drink he was planning. He looks pleased as he thinks about it and says that he will be able to make wine soon. Hyung smiles to himself, clearly satisfied with how well grapes have grown. A strong flow of natural force begins moving around him. Hyung stands in the middle of the greenery with his arms spread out as the energy rises around his body. He closes his eyes and lets the natural force flow through him. The feeling is deeply refreshing. The natural force fills his body until he feels completely restored. feeling as the ecstatic sensation of nature force filling him and replenishing itself. Even in the midsummer heat, Hyung continues taking in the natural force around him. When he finally stops, he wipes his forehead and lets out a tired breath. He looks toward the house and says that he should probably head inside and edit some videos now. Just then his phone begins ringing. Hyung looks down at the phone. The screen shows that the call is from Tracker's manager. Hyung answers the call and listens. The manager greets him and checks how he has been doing. Hyung responds while the manager explains that he only called because he wanted to express his gratitude. He says that Jerome's parents are absolutely thrilled. They had been very worried about Jerome, and now they are happy to hear that he is doing much better. The manager explains that he knew from their previous conversations that Jerome had always struggled physically, so seeing this change has made a big difference. He thanks Hyung again and says that if people did not know any better, they would think Hyung was a druid. Hyung looks embarrassed by the joke. The manager asks him to stay healthy too, and Hyung replies warmly before ending the call. I will hang up now. He lowers the phone and takes a breath. Hyung looks relieved to hear that Jerome is doing well. Just then, another voice catches his attention. An older man approaches with someone beside him. The village chief is walking along the path with an older man, and the rose is near. The road have already bloomed. Hyung looks toward them and asks, "What brings you two here?" The village chief explains that the old man has already eaten all the lettuce and tomatoes he had been growing. The old man becomes embarrassed because he was too ashamed to come ask for more by himself, so the village chief had to drag him along. The old man immediately gets angry. That is not true. He complains about what the village chief is saying. Hyung looks between the two of them. Village chief and the old man continue arguing while Hyung listens. The old man's body looks stiff and he seems to be having trouble with his back. Hyung notices this and asks what is wrong. The old man shifts his body and complains about his back hurting. Hyung tells them to come inside. He says that he will brew them a cup of tea that is good for sore backs. The old man sits at the table while Hyung prepares a warm drink. He places the cup in front of the man and tells him not to drink it while it is still too hot. It is not so hot. Do not drink it before you wait a little. The old man holds the cup and looks at it carefully. He wonders who would make tea like this for him and says that he feels bad being treated to tea as well, but when he notices the smell, he realizes it is probably a medicinal tea meant to help with his back pain. He says that he supposes it is better than not drinking it, but wonders how much of a difference it could really make. He takes a drink. His eyes widen. He slowly straightens up and touches his back. The pain that had been bothering him is gone. He moves his body again in surprise. My back really doesn't hurt anymore. He can hardly believe it. Hyung smiles and explains that he grows these herbs himself. He offers to pack some dried leaves for the man if he needs them. The village chief and the old man look at the herbs with surprise. Herbs you grew yourself. They look at Hyung in a new light. The older woman becomes especially interested in the tea and its ingredients. She brings up Father Mateo, asking whether Hyung remembers him and the time they met him before. The priest stands nearby with a thoughtful expression. The woman explains that the monastery has been having a hard time getting the raw ingredients they need for the soap they make and sell. Father Mateo has had a lot on his mind because of it. She points out that the herbs in Hyung's medicinal tea seem to have a great effect. Looking at how well the tea works, she says it would be perfect to make and sell them as herbal soap. Hyung looks surprised, but explains that he only has a small amount right now. The woman tells him not to worry about that. She plans to build a small greenhouse at the monastery with her own money. She believes that if they can grow the herbs there, they can use them more easily. She continues talking about the plan while Hyung listens. She explains that she will speak with Father Mateo herself and handle the matter. Hyung looks a little confused by how quickly everything is moving. The village chief then turns his attention to Hyung and asks whether he really thinks the tea can be made in such an amount. Hyung stays quiet for a moment as the older people discuss his herbs and the monastery. The village chief watches Hyung carefully. He asks whether Hyung is really the type to wake up at exactly 5 in the morning. Hyung looks surprised. The village chief continues, saying that he has seen Hyung wake up early, exercise, and jog around the hills before starting the rest of his day. He has also seen Hyung cook his own meals, check on his fields, study, and then tend to his garden. The village chief says that there is something very diligent and honest about the life Hyung leads. Anyone can tell just by looking at his house and the way he lives. Hyung listens quietly. While the village chief keeps talking, the village chief admits that he has lived long enough to build his own judgment by watching people over the decades. He says that he has been fooled plenty of times. But that is how he learned to make his own standards and trust people through trial and error. He looks at Hyung and says that, on top of that, he had added a little of his own intuition to his judgment. People around the table listen to him. The village chief finally says that for once, his intuition was right. Hyung smiles and agrees to try it. Okay, let's give it a try. The village chief looks pleased. The day on. Far away, the mountain range sits beneath the morning sky. Hyung lies in his room, resting while holding one of the cats close to him. He slowly wakes up. Something feels strange. His expression changes as he senses something he cannot quite explain. This feeling. Hyung sits up and looks around. The natural force connected to Oren suddenly reacts. Hyung immediately notices the change. Oren. He gets up and moves outside. He runs toward the mountain as fast as he can, following the strange feeling. The deeper he goes into the forest, the stronger the natural force becomes. Green light fills the trees around him. Hyung reaches the area connected to Oren and stops. The force around the tree is different from normal. Hyung places his hand against the trunk and asks, Oren, what happened? Green energy begins to move around his arm and through the tree. Hyung closes his eyes and reaches out with his senses. The tree responds to him, but something is clearly wrong. Hyung looks closely at the natural force around Oren. His eyes widen as he realizes what he is seeing. He stands in the middle of the forest, staring at the tree. Something has disturbed the area connected to Oren. Hyung looks around the dark forest while the green lights continue floating through the trees. Then he notices something lying on the ground ahead. A small animal is trapped inside a metal snare. The trap has caught a small rabbit, and the animal lies on the forest floor, struggling against it. The rabbit is dirty and frightened, breathing heavily as it tries to move. Hyung stares at the trap in shock. A trap. He immediately understands what the strange feeling meant. This is not simply an animal wandering into the area. Someone has placed a trap inside his territory. Hyung looks at the trapped rabbit and then around the forest. The final thought makes it clear that, just like with Bengal, someone has trespassed into his territory. Sihyun is deep inside the forest, kneeling on the ground while holding an injured rabbit in his arms. A strange green light surrounds him and the rabbit as he works to heal its wounds. The rabbit slowly opens its eyes. It looks weak and covered in dirt, but it is finally awake. Sihyun looks at it and asks, "Are you awake?" The rabbit is now able to move again, so Sihyun tells it, "You're okay now, so go on." The rabbit quickly runs away along the forest path. Sihyun watches it leave and lets out a tired breath. He wipes his forehead and says that he managed to get the little guy healed up, but something else is bothering him. Someone had sneaked onto his mountain and set traps again. Sihyun's expression becomes serious as he thinks about what happened. He knows that people should not be setting traps in this area. Nearby, several animals are shown caught in traps. A squirrel is frightened, a wild boar is trapped among the bushes, and another small animal is also struggling. Seeing this makes Sihyun angry. Green energy begins to spread around him as he declares that he will absolutely never forgive whoever did this. After calming down, Sihyun looks around the mountain and starts checking the ground carefully. He remembers the traces that Oren had told him about. He studies the marks left on the ground and notices that they do not look like normal animal tracks. Sihyun finds signs that someone has been walking through the area. He also notices that the person seems to have stepped carefully over the low grass, instead of walking through it normally, even though the mountain is not very high. Sihyun thinks it would be difficult for someone to wander around alone in the middle of the night. He begins to consider that there may be more than one culprit. The remaining tracks are also extremely neat and carefully made. Because of this, Sihyun realizes that the person who set the traps might not be an ordinary amateur. Suddenly, Sihyun hears something nearby. He turns toward the bushes and asks who's there. The leaves move and a small animal appears. It is a little deer wearing a pink outfit with a bell around its neck. The deer looks frightened and quickly runs toward Sihyun. Sihyun kneels down and gently holds the deer. He asks if it came there because it was. Startled, the deer makes a small sound as Sihyun comforts it. Sihyun explains that someone tried to hurt another animal just like they had hurt this deer before. He admits that he lost his temper for a moment and apologizes. The deer stays close to him as he gently pets it. Sihyun then warns that there might still be traps left in the area. Since it is dangerous, he tells the deer that they should head down the mountain together for now. The deer happily follows him as they begin walking down the mountain path. As morning arrives, Sihyun walks down the mountain with an uneasy feeling in his heart. Normally, he would have been peacefully strolling through the back mountain at dawn, but this time things feel different. Sihyun can sense something strange. An ominous energy slowly begins to spread across the entire mountain. The forest becomes quiet as this dark feeling surrounds the area. Then, the story shifts to noon on the same day. Outside the Good Care Animal Medical Center, a cat is shown looking much healthier than before. Inside the clinic, Sihyun holds the cat in his arms while talking with the doctor. The doctor looks at the cat and says that it is the same cat they saw last time and that it has become much healthier. Sihyun asks if its name is Hadu. The doctor explains that he named the cat after its fur color because he could not keep calling it Nabai forever. The doctor then gives Sihyun what he had asked for. He has prepared some dried catnip and a little chamomile for tea. Sihyun is surprised that the doctor even included some for him. The doctor says that it is really nothing. Sihyun tells him that it shows his thoughtfulness and says that he is grateful. He also promises to buy him a meal sometime later. The doctor happily agrees, but then the doctor notices that Sihyun seems a little low on energy today. He asks if something happened. Sihyun pauses before explaining that he went up the back mountain early. That morning, he tells the doctor that he found out someone had set traps there. The doctor is surprised. Traps, Sihyun explains that a wild rabbit had been caught, but fortunately, there was no major issue. The doctor says that is a relief, but hearing about traps reminds him of something, so it startled him a little. He explains that a puppy raised at the summer-sent pension came to the hospital some time ago because it had also been caught in a trap. The doctor adds that the puppy was not severely injured, so after receiving treatment, it went back, but he finds it strange that there are still traps around in this day and age. Sihyun thinks about why someone would set them. It could simply be to catch animals and eat them, but normally people do not catch and eat wild animals because of the risk of parasites or disease. Sihyun then asks himself why anyone would set the traps in the first place. The doctor says the only reason he can think of is abuse. Sihyun looks at him. Abuse, you say? The doctor explains that there are sometimes people who mistreat animals that cannot speak simply for fun or amusement. Because he works at the hospital, he sees those kinds of animals quite often. He says the person who set the traps this time might have done it for the same reason. The thought is truly heartbreaking, but according to the doctor, it happens more often than people might think. He tells Sihyun that if he ever discovers any injured animals, he should make sure to bring them to their hospital. Sihyun looks at him and says that he will do that. The doctor, Suman, is shown looking relieved as he speaks with Sihyun. Sihyun thinks About humans, he realizes that humans are truly strange beings. There are endlessly kind people like Sumin, but at the same time there are also bad people who hurt animals for fun while living in Kang Sihyun's bodies. He had already met many good people, but now he is left wondering just how much more vicious humans can become. A few days later, Sihyun arrives in front of Donjun Cathedral. The cathedral stands beneath bright sky with its tall cross rising above the building. Inside the grounds there is a Pieta statue. Nearby, a beautiful rose garden is filled with blooming flowers. Sihyun looks around at the peaceful surroundings and thinks that it is scenery fitting for a monastery. Somehow the quiet place also makes his heart feel more at ease. As Sihyun walks through the garden, he suddenly hears someone. He turns around. Brother, Sihyun looks surprised, and Sihyun sees him waiting near the cathedral. Nearby, a priest named Father Mateo greets them with a friendly, good morning. Father Mateo is dressed in his dark priest's robe and holds a book with a cross on it. He tells Sihyun that the weather is hot, so they should talk inside the chapel. Sihyun agrees and the two head inside. Once they are in the chapel, Father Mateo explains that he heard from Stella, then corrects himself and says he heard from the village chief. He has heard that Sihyun grows herbs. Father Mateo gives Sihyun a list summarizing the herbs that require cultivation and asks him to check it over. Sihyun takes the list and looks through it carefully. He explains that most of the herbs are varieties he has grown before, so there should not be any issue with preparing them. He then says that cultivation can begin as soon as the greenhouse is ready. Father Mateo listens carefully. Sihyun starts thinking about how the herbs should be grown and asks how he should arrange the interior structure of the greenhouse. Father Mateo looks pleased as they continue talking. He thinks about how he came to meet brother Sihyun, who cultivates herbs at a time when he had many worries. To Father Mateo, the village chief introducing brother Sihyun to him must also have been God's will. Sihyun smiles and says that he looks forward to working with him. Father Mateo says he looks forward to working with Sihyun as well. Sihyun smiles warmly and repeats that he looks forward to working with Father Mateo. The two continue their conversation until the sky outside becomes stained with a rosy evening light. As their discussion continues, Sihyun suddenly remembers something important. He tells Father Mateo that he should know about it too. Traps were discovered on the back mountain early that morning. Father Mateo is surprised. Traps, you say? Sihyun explains that the distance from the mountain to the monastery is close, so whoever set the traps might also be somewhere around the monastery. Because of that, Sihyun thinks it would be better for everyone to stay careful for the time being. Father Mateo looks concerned. He asks who on earth would do such a dangerous thing. He thanks Sihyun for letting him know and says that he will also tell Sihyun if he notices anything suspicious around the monastery. The conversation comes to an end. Later, the chapel becomes quiet. Someone is standing near the entrance. Father Mateo is still inside with Sihyun. A voice asks what brings Sihyun to the chapel at this hour. Sihyun turns toward the speaker. The priest calls out, "Simon." Sihyun looks toward the entrance. He notices another man standing there. Sihyun wonders if the man is a villager who attends the monastery. He thinks that he should at least greet him. Sihyun turns further and gets a clearer look. The man is wearing a dark hooded outfit and carrying a book with a cross on it. Sihyun suddenly recognizes him. He realizes that this is the man he saw at the tofu shop back then. The sight of the man leaves Sihyun stunned. He looks toward the stranger as the man stands quietly inside the chapel. Sihyun cannot understand why that man is here. The final moment focuses on the hooded man's face as he holds the book close to himself, and Sihyun's question remains hanging in the air. Why is that man here? Inside a quiet church, Sihyun is seated inside as a man in dark clothes approaches while holding a black book. The man in dark clothes stands quietly, his face partly hidden by his cap and hood. A brown-haired man speaks to Sihyun and says, "Perfect timing. I'd like you to meet someone who's going to help us." He then introduces the man as Simon. Simon suddenly looks startled. Simon quickly turns and runs away from the church. Sihyun watches him leave and asks, "Who was that?" The brown-haired man realizes that he never properly introduced Simon. The brown-haired man explains that many people work and earn a living at the monastery's soap factory. He points out Simon and says that Simon is one of them. Sihyun listens and asks why Simon is avoiding him, especially since it has already happened twice. The brown-haired man says that Sihyun seems to have crossed paths with Simon before. He then asks Sihyun whether he has heard the rumors about Simon's criminal record. Sihyun listens as the man confirms that Simon does have a record, but says that Simon simply got off on the wrong foot when he was young. The man says, "I believe everyone deserves a second chance." He adds that he trusts Simon is capable of changing. He also points out that Simon is only 24 years old and suggests that Simon might simply be avoiding Sihyun because he is shy. Sihyun quietly says that he hopes so. Sihyun looks towards Simon from a distance. The narration notes that Simon's aura does not feel like that of a criminal, and Sihyun considers that maybe he really is not a bad person. Sihyun continues looking at Simon as the thought remains in his mind. Sihyun wonders whether his judgment is simply his own delusion. Simon is shown again in his dark hooded clothes, looking tense. Sihyun looks back toward the church. The church is shown in the warm evening light. Sihyun stands outside and looks toward the building. He wonders, can I really trust him like the father says? A few days later, the story moves to Elder Jeong's house. A cow is shown with a newborn calf beside her, and someone reacts happily to the birth. The newborn calf is shown lying close to the larger cow, the youngest granddaughter. Two people talk about the newborn. One calls her a granddaughter, while the other says that she is just number 41. One of them complains that the other is doing that again, and asks what it matters if her name is just a number. He adds that the other has already grown attached to her anyway. A message appears saying that good news came to Elder Jeong's house, that it was all thanks to number 28 giving birth, which had started the previous night. At Elder Jeong's midnight emergency phone call, Sumin, the director of the animal hospital, rushed over along with the neighboring druid to keep watch. The animals are shown together while the people care for them. One of the animals makes a small sound as it is being cared for. Sihyun gently pets the animal. Sihyun says that he is glad she was born safe and sound. The sun is coming up, and Sihyun points out how late it has already become. Everyone has worked hard, so Sihyun tells them to sit down and rest for a while. They thank him. The group rests outside. The conversation turns to Dongbak, who has been making a big fuss about being on TV. Someone says that Dongbak said Sihyun is going to be on TV too, and Sihyun confirms that this is how things turned out. Someone adds that the director said he would drop by that weekend. They also comment that Sihyun has been busy lately with the church work. Sihyun responds that they should tell him about it. The group remains together outside, and the conversation continues. Someone tells Sihyun that tomorrow is when things will really begin. The next day, Sihyun arrives behind Donggun Church. He looks up at the huge greenhouse and is surprised by its size. Sihyun looks around the greenhouse and says that its scale is insane. That Elder Jeong's words about the village chief's grand ambition were right. The village chief is shown in a playful image, talking about how quickly she works, that you cannot just be anyone to become the village chief. Sihyun meets Father outside the greenhouse. Father tells him that he is already there. Sihyun looks toward the greenhouse, and Father asks whether he has looked around. Father says he heard that a lot of care was put into the interior as well. Father says that they even put a lot of care into the inside, which makes him look forward to it even more. Sihyun and Father enter the greenhouse together. Sihyun looks around at the large structure. Sihyun notices the equipment hanging from the ceiling and asks, "What's hanging from the ceiling?" "Sprinklers." He looks around at the greenhouse and notices that the soil is infused with nature force, making it high quality. Sihyun is impressed that everything was prepared in such a short time. He explains that the setup here is a bit different from the greenhouse at his house. Sihyun says that the greenhouse gets plenty of sunlight and wind, making it great for growing herbs. Father looks at Sihyun and says, "It seems you like it." Sihyun replies that he does and says he is already excited for what is to come. Father asks about the future and whether Sihyun has a plan for how he will set up the greenhouse. Sihyun says that he has a plan to an extent. Sihyun explains that he is thinking of growing fast-growing rosemary and peppermint together. He also plans to plant roses and lavender, which are great for essential oils. Sihyun smiles as he explains the plants he wants to grow. Sihyun shows Father a prepared document and says that it contains the information he put together about the herbs and seedlings he just explained. Father looks at the document. Sihyun says that he brought it along because it would be easier to explain everything to the staff if they had it. Father is surprised that Sihyun prepared something like this. Despite his young age, Sihyun's eyes do not look like those of someone who knows nothing about the world. He went out of his way to prepare a reference that even non-experts could understand. Father looks pleased by the information. Father says this is reassuring. Now I know right away what we need to do next. Father says that he will make sure to pass the information along to their staff as well. And with that, full-scale herb cultivation officially began. Over the next few days, with the help of the monastery staff, Sihyun planted herb and flower seedlings. Whenever no one was looking, Sihyun quietly shared his nature force with the herbs to help them take root. A few days later, the newly planted herbs are shown growing inside the greenhouse. Sihyun wipes his forehead and looks over the plants. He says, "Phew, looks like everyone is growing well." Someone calls out, "Mr. Kang." Sihyun turns around in surprise. Sihyun sees Brother Peter and calls out, "Brother Peter." Brother Peter is carrying a red watering can and tells Sihyun that he is out early today as well. Brother Peter is the person in charge of production at the soap factory. He was also the one who started calling Sihyun Mr. Kang. Sihyun admits that it still feels a little awkward. Brother Peter asks Sihyun whether he walks around barefoot in the greenhouse. Sihyun looks down at his bare feet and asks whether it is strange after all. Sihyun explains that when he is barefoot, he can clearly feel what is moving on the ground. He says it is a habit he formed because he worries that he might accidentally step on an earthworm. He adds that he can stop if it makes Brother Peter uncomfortable. Brother Peter quickly says, "No, no." Brother Peter explains that he is not saying it is strange. Brother Peter looks at Sihyun with a warm expression. The forest scent wafts through the greenhouse whenever someone gets close to Sihyun, and there is a pure way he cares for plants and animals. Even while simply pulling weeds, Sihyun works with the passion of someone doing the most important work in the world. Sihyun continues tending the plants with the same focus. His clear, unfathomable gaze remains fixed on the plants. His gaze stays focused as he continues working. At times, that gaze makes him seem like a renowned sage. Brother Peter says that he is truly looking forward to the results of their collaboration. Sihyun starts to answer. It is not clear what he was about to say. Sihyun smiles and replies, "Of course, leave it to me." Sihyun clenches his hand and says, "I'll do my absolute best." The setting sun wraps around Sihyun and Brother Peter in a warm atmosphere. The next shot shows the church and greenhouse under the evening sky. Brother Peter tells Sihyun, "Great work today, Mr. Kang." Sihyun says that Brother Peter is the one working hard managing the greenhouse while he is not there. Brother Peter says that this is not true and explains that the staff take turns taking care of it too. He adds that Simon and Ludovico are especially diligent. Sihyun hears Simon's name and becomes thoughtful. He says that he barely knows anything about that guy. Sihyun looks at Brother Peter and wonders whether Brother Peter should know Simon well. Sihyun politely asks, "Excuse me, brother, could you tell me a bit about Simon?" Brother Peter looks towards Sihyun as the question is asked. Brother Peter explains that Simon is a hard worker who is diligent and quick to understand instructions. Brother Peter also says that Ludovico is a good friend of Simon and sticks to him like a twin. Simon is shown working, while Brother Peter continues talking about him. Brother Peter adds that Simon is good at his studies overall and is a wonderful man. Sihyun looks toward the church entrance and notices someone approaching. A man approaches Sihyun and greets him with, "Oh, hello." The man introduces himself and asks, "You're Mr. Kang, right?" Sihyun looks at him as the man smiles. The man says, "My name is Kim Myung. Feel free to call me Ludovico." Sihyun greets Kim Myung and says that it is nice to meet him. Sihyun notices that even though they have only just met, Kim Myung talks to him as if he already knows him well. Kim Myung turns and walks with the others near the church. Kim Myung continues speaking with Sihyun while Brother Peter remains nearby. Kim Myung says that he is looking forward to working with Sihyun. A hand grips a black bag tightly. A dark purple glow surrounds. Ludovico stands before Sihyun with a bright, welcoming smile, expressing how much he looks forward to working together. Framed by his black-rimmed glasses and neat silver hair, his sharp facial features give off a polite charm. Yet despite his pleasant expression, Sihyun swallows hard as a sudden wave of heavy tension washes over him. Looking closely at Ludovico, Sihyun asks if they have met somewhere before. Ludovico maintains his calm smile and responds that he has only seen Sihyun from afar. Sihyun crosses his arms, considering that since they work in the same parish, it wouldn't be strange to recognize each other, but an uncomfortable feeling continues to linger in his mind. Suddenly, a rustling noise breaks the silence. Sihyun notices Ludovico trying to keep something behind him and asks what could possibly be inside that bag he is hiding. Ludovico holds up a dark bag and explains that he picked it up on the mountain behind the parish. He then pulls out a heavy, metallic chain trap from inside the bag with a sharp clink. Sihyun gasps in shock at the sight of the dangerous device. Ludovico shows the trap and mentions that someone has been setting them up lately, adding that animals could get hurt and that it was too dangerous to leave behind, which is why he brought it along. An unsettling, dark shadow casts over Ludovico's eyes and glasses. Sihyun watches him suspiciously, wondering how he could have just stumbled upon a trap hidden deep within those dense woods. Taking a step closer, Sihyun warns him that the mountain behind the parish is private land where trespassing is illegal, reminding him that the area is full of dangerous wild animals and asking him not to go back there. Ludovico glances down at his wristwatch and politely agrees to be careful. He mentions having an appointment to catch and expresses regret that he must leave so soon, saying he would have loved to chat more. With a cheerful wave, Ludovico bids farewell and walks away quickly, leaving Sihyun calling after him in vain. Another parish member approaches Sihyun, noting that Ludovico is usually not like this and must have been in a huge hurry. Sihyun stares into the distance, realizing that while Ludovico seemed relaxed on the surface, he was clearly avoiding the subject. Determined to figure out what was really happening on that mountain, Sihyun is suddenly struck by a sharp, throbbing pain in his wrist. He grips his wrist tightly right on the spot where the demon's mark used to be, his eyes widening in alarm as he wonders what secret Ludovico could possibly be hiding. Meanwhile, walking through the fallen leaves on the mountain path, Ludovico lets out a dark smirk, amused that Sihyun is sharper than he looks. The next afternoon, under a peaceful weekend sun, Sihyun crouches outdoors surrounded by small, playful kittens playing near a patch of grass. Despite the calm atmosphere, his mind is restless, consumed by thoughts of Ludovico's strange behavior. He recalls climbing the mountain behind the parish the previous night, tracing the path through the thick brush. Deep in the bushes, he had discovered the exact spot where the trap had been retrieved. Sihyun realized Ludovico knew the exact location of the trap, making him wonder if he was working together with Simon, before questioning if he might be suspecting an innocent person. Snapping back to reality, Sihyun decides that thinking alone won't give him answers and resolves to ask Ludovico directly the next time they meet. Just then, a lively voice interrupts his thoughts. Sihyun turns with a light smile, welcoming his guests as he opens the door. A film crew member greets him enthusiastically, asking Sihyun to take good care of them today. It turns out Sihyun was busy early on a weekend morning because they were filming a broadcast starring two energetic dogs, one of which is barking wildly while its handler struggles to control it. As Sihyun watches, he notices a stylish woman with short reddish-pink hair arriving on set. She stands out far too much to be part of the regular crew. The crew member excitedly whispers to Sihyun that they get to shoot with the famous top actress, Jang Miso, who is hugely popular and constantly winning awards. Pointing toward a hyperactive beige dog leaping nearby, the crew member introduces her pet as Michelle. He mentions that Michelle has a bit of a biting habit and that he relates to her owner, planning to offer some comforting words. He explains that the concept of the broadcast is contrasting country dogs with city dogs. Beside a playful white country dog running in the dirt, Michelle sits elegantly wearing a delicate pearl necklace. Despite their vast environmental differences, both dogs face similar behavior issues, officially kicking off a difficult shooting day. The director calls for a solo interview, causing the crew member to rush off, leaving Sihyun alone. Holding one of the energetic dogs, Sihyun realizes he has plenty of time before his own turn to shoot and decides to prepare some refreshments. As he moves, he catches Jang Miso standing nearby, holding an umbrella and watching him. Sihyun prepares fresh garlic baguettes infused with basil and pairs them with cold brewed herbal tea left out overnight. Taking a bite, he finds it completely refreshing. Suddenly, a loud, undeniable stomach growl echoes through the room. Sihyun turns around to find Jang Miso standing by the door, clutching her stomach with a bright red, thoroughly embarrassed face. Realizing it was her stomach making the noise, Sihyun politely offers her a slice of the warm garlic bread. Jang Miso tries to decline to save face, but her stomach rumbles loudly once again. Accepting the plate bashfully, she takes a big bite, and her eyes instantly fill with pure delight. She passionately gushes over the bread, praising the crispy texture, soft inside, and the perfect flavor of the basil. Sihyun thanks her, pleasantly surprised that she recognized the basil instantly and that her earlier prickly attitude completely melted away. Jang Miso admits that she hasn't eaten anything since yesterday and thanks him for saving her. Sihyun smiles and gently reminds her to leave some snacks for the rest of the crew. Laughing that she might eat it all herself if she stays, Jang Miso eagerly carries the treats out to share with the hardworking camera crew, who thoroughly enjoy the delicious snacks. As Sihyun watches the crew eat happily, Jang Miso suddenly stops and looks toward the corner with a startled expression. Both dogs come running in, covered in mud from playing outside. Distressed by the dirt on Michelle's fur, Jang Miso kneels down and attempts to grab her to wash her right away. However, Michelle suddenly growls and aggressively snaps at her hand, causing Jang Miso to pull back in shock with a cry of pain. The staff rush over to check on her, while Jang Miso looks at her dog with tearful, heartbroken eyes, asking why Michelle won't ever come to her. Sihyun walks over and gently kneels beside Michelle, stroking her back as the dog calms down and whimpers softly. Understanding the situation without needing to read the dog's mind, Sihyun turns to Jang Miso and asks if she walks Michelle properly. Jang Miso stammers guiltily, explaining that because so many people recognize her outside, she was afraid Michelle might get hurt. Sihyun calmly explains that dogs need to sniff and run around in the dirt to relieve stress, and that Michelle would much rather be a dog that can run around freely than a pretty, sweet-smelling pet. Looking down at the floor, Jang Miso sorrowfully blames herself for being a terrible owner, revealing that she couldn't bring herself to hire a dog walker. She then reveals a heartbreaking truth. Michelle is actually a rescued dog who was severely abused. Hearing this, Sihyun turns around with wide, shocked eyes, clenching his fist as anger and shock wash over him at the dark reality of Michelle's past. Miso sits outside on the grass in front of the clinic, a look of deep distress on her face as she covers her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Behind her stands the director of the Good Care Animal Medical Center, watching her quietly. Beside Miso, Michelle the dog sits on the ground, looking up with a sad expression and whimpering softly. Inside the clinic, the film crew member sits on the couch with Sihyun, delving into the heartbreaking truth of Michelle's past. The crew member reveals that Michelle is an abused dog who was abandoned when she was just a little puppy. A glimpse of the past shows a tiny, terrified Michelle fiercely barking and growling in a dark room as a shadowy figure opens the door. The crew member explains that this severe trauma is exactly why the dog developed a terrible biting problem around strangers. Back outside, Miso looks down tearfully, admitting she thought bringing Michelle to the country air would help. She tried sending her to a doggy daycare, but the biting only got worse around strangers, eventually forcing her to give up. Gripping her hands together, Miso confesses that she dressed Michelle up in pretty clothes because she was terrified people would dislike the dog for being aggressive. With tears streaming down her face, she cries that she just wanted others to love Michelle a little more, realizing she wasn't trying to show off a pretty pet, but was just desperate for acceptance. Miso sobs softly, admitting that she guesses she was entirely wrong. The clinic director steps closer and smiles warmly down at her. He gently tells her that he understands exactly how she feels, but asks her to consider an alternative perspective. Looking at her kindly, the director asks if she doesn't think true happiness for dogs is simply being allowed to be themselves. Hearing a happy bark, Miso looks over. Michelle is running wildly through the dirt, playfully chasing a toy bug with her tongue hanging out in pure, unbridled joy. Witnessing this sheer happiness, Miso's eyes widen in stunned realization. A beautiful, emotional smile breaks across her face as she wipes her tears, finally understanding the truth. She resolves to trust Michelle from now on. Filled with newfound determination, Miso stands up and shouts for the producer to resume shooting, while the director smiles proudly beside her. The producer looks over in surprise as Michelle sits attentively, ready to begin. Later in the afternoon, the briefly paused shoot officially resumes under the outdoor canopy. The leash clicks open, and Miso kneels in the grass, softly calling Michelle's name. Michelle immediately turns around and barks happily in response. Miso gasps, her eyes widening in shock as she wonders if her dog just answered her. As Michelle looks at her attentively, Miso nervously crosses her arms, thinking that trying to get too close might still be asking for too much. She decides that simply getting some nice close-up shots will be enough for now. But suddenly, Michelle reaches out and gently places her small paw directly onto Miso's hand. Michelle lets out a cheerful bark, beaming with a bright, joyful smile. Overwhelmed with shock, Miso covers her mouth, tears welling in her eyes as she realizes she didn't even need to speak a word to connect with her pet. Throwing away all her previous worries about appearances, Miso and Michelle run freely around the front yard, quickly getting covered head to toe in dirt. They chase bugs and roll enthusiastically on the ground, thoroughly exhausting themselves in the afternoon heat. Miso no longer cares about looking perfect. She holds her muddy dog and laughs brightly, telling Michelle that it tickles. She finally understands that this wild freedom is true happiness. As the sun begins to set, the shoot that mended the cracks in both of their hearts beautifully comes to an end. The director of the shoot yells to cut, and the producer instructs the crew to pack up their gear. As the cameramen dismantle the equipment, Michelle vigorously shakes the heavy dirt from her fur. Miso crouches next to her muddy companion, smiling warmly as she tells Michelle the dirt looks great on her, promising to go on lots of walks from now on. The producer calls out to Miso, prompting her to turn around and find Sihyun approaching with a to-go cup. He tells her it's peppermint tea he packed especially for her, noticing she seemed to enjoy it earlier. Touched by the kind gesture, Miso gratefully accepts the drink. Sihyun rubs the back of his neck with a modest smile, telling her it's nothing. He wishes her a safe trip to her next shoot at a professional training center and hopes she continues to bond well with Michelle. Looking down at the dog, Sihyun notes that deep down, Michelle actually likes her quite a lot. Michelle barks cheerfully in agreement. Miso laughs brightly, promising to make up for all the time she missed understanding her dog's heart. She bows deeply to Sihyun, sincerely thanking him for everything he did today. Standing at the gate with the producer, Miso announces their departure, and Sihyun waves them off, wishing them a safe journey home. Just as she walks away, Miso suddenly stops, turns back with a playful wink, and tells Sihyun to call her Nuna the next time they meet. Sihyun blinks in surprise, realizing that although he initially thought she was a prickly person, she is actually full of surprises. Turning to head back inside, Sihyun hears his name called. He turns to see the producer hurrying over with a warm smile. The producer firmly shakes Sihyun's hand, thanking him for his cooperation and noting they captured a lot of excellent footage. He earnestly explains that in his 20 years working at the broadcasting station, he has seen plenty of strange people who claim they can talk to animals. However, he emphasizes that none of them were like Sihyun, pointing out that animals naturally gravitate toward him without him even trying. Sihyun smiles modestly, replying that animals just happen to like him quite a bit. The producer steps closer, his grip firm and his expression determined, expressing a strong desire to meet again soon and promising to put together a fantastic proposal for their next collaboration. He then turns and shouts to his crew, directing everyone to start heading out. Sihyun politely acknowledges him, watching the crew leave with a soft smile. Realizing that joy often comes from unexpected places, Sihyun finds himself genuinely looking forward to their next meeting. A few days later, Sihyun relaxes on a comfortable beanbag, scrolling through his phone. He's amazed to see that the self-produced content has already been uploaded, marveling at how it feels like the crew just left. Watching the video, he praises the editor's genius skills for seamlessly managing the basic cuts and special effects. He reads through the glowing comments, with viewers thanking him for healing their babies and questioning the special effects of birds resting on his shoulders. Sihyun chuckles, noting that despite his brief appearance, the audience is highly interested. A small ginger cat meows, batting at his phone. Sihyun looks down to see his cats, Odio, Seven, and Bibungi, energetically playing with a hanging toy. He recalls casually naming them after the colors of the rainbow based on Sumin's suggestion while pouring their kibble, admitting he probably should have put more thought into it. Suddenly, his phone buzzes with a flood of new notifications. Shocked, Sihyun stares at the screen as comments pour in from veteran fans expressing their excitement. He realizes that these loyal subscribers have been watching his videos from the very beginning. Clutching his phone to his chest, he sits quietly, moved by the realization that he has never properly expressed his gratitude to them. Clenching his fist with determination, Sihyun decides it is time to host a special subscriber event. A few days later, Sihyun stands inside the Good Care Animal Medical Center. A small ginger cat meows from inside a carrier resting on the counter. Sumin, wearing her blue scrubs, warmly greets him. Sihyun explains that he came to discuss spaying and neutering the cats. Sumin smiles, informing him that the clinic director's consultation should be finishing up shortly. She looks at the kittens, noting how fast time flies and agreeing they are old enough for the procedure. Suddenly, the automatic doors of the clinic slide open with a loud mechanical whir. Sumin gasps loudly, her face instantly draining of color in absolute panic. Frantically yelling for Sihyun to hold on for a moment, Sumin abandons the counter and sprints past him. Confused, Sihyun looks back as Sumin rushes toward the clinic director, who has just stumbled through the entrance looking disheveled and frantic. Sumin desperately asks the director what happened to make him run off in such a hurry. Sihyun stares at the distressed clinic director, his eye twitching and his pupil trembling as a sudden, chilling realization washes over him. The name Mr. Ludovico echoes ominously in his mind. The scene shifts to a dark, terrifying mental image as Sihyun connects the current tragedy to the priest from the mountain. Immersed in dark purple shadows, a horrifying vision of Ludovico appears. With his purple hair, glasses, and a stark white shirt, Ludovico is bathed in a sinister, heavy aura. Resting one hand elegantly near his chin, Ludovico's eyes are wide and piercing. A deeply unsettling, evil smirk stretches across Ludovico's face. Sihyun is left frozen in shock, internally questioning if this man, Ludovico, is out there right now, smiling at the chaos he caused. The scene opens in a dimly lit room where Ludovico stands tall with a creepy, wide smile on his face. His clothes are messy and heavily stained with dirt and dark marks. Right behind him, Kang stares in absolute shock. Sweat drips down Kang's face as he asks Ludovico if he is actually smiling right now. Hearing this, Ludovico's expression instantly changes. The creepy smile vanishes, replaced by a fake look of surprise and nervousness. He sweats slightly and stammers, asking what Kang means. Ludovico quickly tries to cover it up, telling Kang that he must have seen wrong because smiling in a serious situation like this makes absolutely no sense. Kang isn't convinced. He glares intensely at Ludovico's back. Suddenly, a massive, swirling green aura of nature force erupts around Ludovico's body. Kang watches this energy and realizes that if he truly saw wrong, Ludovico's nature force wouldn't be surging with such intense joy. Kang comes to a firm conclusion. Whether Ludovico is the actual culprit or not, he is definitely connected to this entire incident. Knowing he needs to gather more clues, Kang decides to push further. He casually asks Ludovico if he went to the stream all alone. Ludovico turns his head back, his face half covered in dark shadows, and suspiciously asks why Kang is bringing that up. Kang simply replies that he was just wondering if Simon was with him, since everyone always says the two of them are practically attached at the hip. The moment Kang mentions Simon, Ludovico flinches. Instantly, the green aura behind Kang morphs into a terrifying vision of giant, glowing beast eyes glaring down at him. Kang feels an overwhelming pressure, wondering what this intense feeling is. He feels completely helpless, as if he has just been thrown as fresh prey right in front of a hungry lion. Trying to keep his composure, Ludovico forces a nervous smile and stammers out an excuse. He says that when it is this hot outside, there are barely any people by the stream anyway. He argues that whether someone was rescuing an animal or just watching, no one else would have been around to see it. Kang is taken aback by this strange logic and asks him to repeat what he just said. Suddenly, Ludovico snaps. He grabs his chest, his face twisting into pure anger, and shouts at Kang. He aggressively asks what Kang is trying to imply, yelling that he went through a lot of trouble just to rescue a poor raccoon. Kang takes a startled step back from the sudden outburst. Trying to calm the situation, Kang explains that he only asked because he heard recent accidents caused by traps have been heavily increasing. He tells Ludovico he just thought he might know something. Ludovico immediately crosses his arms defensively and lets out an awkward, forced laugh. He loudly denies everything, claiming he does not know anything about any traps. He insists he only rescued an animal that caught his eye and gets defensive, asking why Kang is looking at him as if he committed a crime. Right at that tense moment, the heavy metal door swings open with a creak. Kang turns his head as a voice calls out. Sumin announces that the urgent medical treatment is finished for now. Sumin explains that they will look after the raccoon temporarily before safely handing it over to a wildlife protection group. Sumin then specifically tells Kim Myung that the raccoon is perfectly fine, so there is no need to worry, but warns him not to catch dangerous animals directly with his bare hands next time. Ludovico, looking annoyed, avoids eye contact and mutters a brief agreement. Stating that the treatment is completely done, he announces he is leaving and quickly walks out of the room in a huff. Kang watches him leave in pure silence. Sumin comments from the side that Ludovico is usually a very polite person, and Kang quietly agrees. Sumin guesses that maybe the extreme summer heat is just making him a bit too sensitive. However, Kang narrows his eyes, thinking to himself that whether Ludovico is just sensitive or actually guilty of something, they will just have to wait and see. The story shifts to early the next morning. Kang wakes up much earlier than his usual routine. Changing his daily habits, he begins a tough hike up the steep mountain right behind his house. He breathes heavily and sweats as he climbs, but he has a clear reason for doing this. He remembers a loud, crowded restaurant from before, where he had a serious conversation with Sumin. Sumin had mentioned knowing Kim Myung well, noting that Kim Myung had also rescued an animal caught in a trap prior to this incident. Sumin recalled reporting the illegal traps to the police station back then, but the police could not do much to help. Before parting ways, Sumin had warned Kang to be careful on the mountain and to look after the stray cats. Kang had warmly agreed and thanked Sumin. Back in the present, Kang walks deep into the shaded forest. His mind is completely focused on Ludovico. He realizes that based on all of Ludovico's weird actions so far, he is absolutely the most suspicious person around. But Kang also knows that even if Ludovico is innocent, the real culprit will definitely continue hunting innocent animals. As Kang steps deeper into the woods, the environment grows dark and mystical. It is a known fact that druids deeply hate anyone intruding on their personal territory. Whenever they leave their lands, they use the forest itself to set up extremely dangerous traps. Any punishment for trespassing is strictly decided by the druid in charge, meaning even a simple intrusion could instantly trigger a bloody, deadly war. However, Kang reminds himself that he currently lives in a world with human laws. Punishing sins is not a job for just one individual. He stops walking and takes a deep, calming breath in and out. His hands begin to glow with a soft, magical energy. Even with human laws in place, Kang decides he cannot just sit back and do nothing. He must set up a proper safeguard. Using his ancient magic, Kang starts crafting a very traditional trap designed specifically to catch the perpetrator. With just a single, elegant gesture of his glowing hand, the massive roots of the trees start moving. They grow out rapidly, twisting and winding across the forest floor. Thick branches stretch their long arms out, completely blocking the sunlight from above. The entire forest smoothly transforms into the exact defensive shape Kang envisions. Once the magic settles, Kang wipes the sweat from his face and lets out a long sigh of relief. He successfully finishes casting the powerful Archmage Druid Moonlight's handmade trap spell. The bait is officially cast. Now, the dark, quiet forest waits patiently for the culprit to finally take the bait. Later that evening, the sky turns pitch black. The scene shifts to a quiet, brightly lit church. From inside, a calm voice prays in the name of the Lord, finishing with a faithful Amen. Inside the church, Father Mateo stands alone with his eyes closed, his hands clasped together in prayer. In a calm, faithful voice, he prays in the name of the Lord, finishing with a faithful Amen. He opens his eyes and looks up, realizing just how late it has gotten. Outside in the dark streets near the church, Father Mateo is walking alone. Suddenly, he hears angry voices nearby from the alleyway. Someone yells that they do not want to do this, while another voice mocks them, asking if they are scared. Father Mateo stops in his tracks, wondering who could be arguing at this late hour so close to the church. He carefully sneaks closer and hides behind a wall to peek at the alleyway. He overhears one of them aggressively saying to just let him do it. Father Mateo's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the two figures standing in the dark. It is Simon and Ludovico. Ludovico is sharply scolding the blonde-haired Simon. He tells Simon that they are just going to set up the trap and watch safely from a distance. Ludovico demands to know why Simon is suddenly acting so scared after following along perfectly fine up until this point. Simon nervously bites his thumbnail, looking deeply anxious. He stammers that he just keeps thinking about a certain person's intimidating eyes. Ludovico quickly catches on and smirks. He asks if Simon is talking about that bastard, Mr. Kang. Ludovico sneers, saying he completely understands because Kang has absolutely disgusting eyes. He steps closer to Simon, suggesting they should land a heavy blow right on Kang's arrogant face. Simon stays completely silent. He looks down at the ground, clearly conflicted, and lets out a heavy, stressed sigh. Seeing Simon hesitate, Ludovico reaches out and aggressively grabs Simon by the chin, forcing him to look up. Ludovico demands to know what caused this sudden change of heart. He viciously mocks Simon's faith, asking if he actually thinks going to church for a little bit magically makes him a better person. Ludovico points out the hypocrisy, reminding Simon that Father Mateo takes great care of him, completely unaware that Simon does dark, illegal things behind the priest's back. Ludovico laughs at the very idea of repentance, calling it a complete joke. Ludovico steps directly into Simon's personal space, staring straight into his eyes. He tells Simon that all of that religious stuff is a lie and tells him to only believe what is actually believable. Grabbing Simon tightly by the shoulders, Ludovico violently shakes him, asking if he has already forgotten exactly how the two of them have managed to survive this long. Ludovico's face turns deadly serious as he states that the only people they can truly trust in this world are each other. His voice drops as he tries to manipulate Simon, suggesting they just keep living their lives looking for fun things to do, just like they always used to. He smiles wickedly, telling Simon that you only live once, so he should definitely enjoy doing whatever he wants while he is still alive. Ludovico grips Simon's shoulder so incredibly hard that Simon winces in visible pain. Watching this intense, dark confrontation from the shadows, Father Mateo's face turns serious and heartbroken. He quietly mutters their names under his breath: Simon, Ludovico, finally confirming the dark truth about them. Father Mateo reflects with heavy regret, thinking to himself that he had absolutely no idea what was happening while keeping those children so close to him. He feels a deep sense of despair, crying out to the Lord and calling himself truly pathetic for his blindness. His thoughts immediately shift to Simon, remembering how the boy's presence caused quite a commotion because he was known as a child with a criminal record. Simon is seen standing quietly in a dark hoodie, looking down as the surrounding churchgoers glare at him from all sides. The boy's arrival caused quite a stir and uncomfortable murmuring among the believers in the church. Despite the negative whispers, a comforting hand gently grasps Simon's shoulder. Mateo firmly believed that the young Simon simply needed a proper opportunity to change his path. From that moment on, Mateo paid very close attention to the boy, making sure Simon would not feel the harsh, glaring eyes of the believers. Sensing the priest's genuine sincerity, Simon gradually began to open his closed heart to him. The two of them spent peaceful moments studying the Holy Scriptures together. Simon also actively participated in the community, respectfully bowing to others and helping out with various chores around the church. Seeing this positive transformation, Mateo became absolutely certain that Simon was not an inherently evil person. However, the peaceful days shifted when a new individual entered the picture. It was right around that time that Kim Myung appeared, warmly calling out to Simon with a bright smile. Kim Myung, who is also known as Ludovico, began taking care of Simon. Ludovico had a great reputation due to his good behavior and highly impressive academic background. Seeing the well-respected Ludovico with the boy, the believers were finally able to fully accept both of them into their community. But a dark shift soon occurred. Simon, who had been gradually brightening up while staying so close to Mateo, suddenly began to retreat. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed as Simon walked away into the shadows. He completely closed the doors of his heart once again, isolating himself from the priest's guidance. Back in the present, Mateo clutches his chest in agonizing realization, his face covered in nervous sweat. He severely regrets his past blindness, thinking that he should have realized something was wrong back then. He reflects on the disturbing encounter he had just witnessed in the dark streets and realizes that the relationship between Ludovico and Simon was incredibly unnatural. A terrifying truth flashes in his mind: Ludovico was completely controlling Simon. A sharp glint of absolute determination appears in Mateo's eyes. Knowing that Simon desperately needs help, he resolves that for the child's sake, he must put a stop to this twisted situation immediately. Deciding to act, a hand quickly swipes across a smartphone screen to make an urgent call. The contact on the screen reads Brother Sihyun, which is Kang's name, and a loud ringing tone begins to play. The call connects, and a calm voice answers from the other end with a simple hello. Mateo grips the phone tightly and speaks into the receiver, sincerely apologizing for calling so late in the night. He urgently asks if Kang has a moment to talk right now, addressing him formally as brother.